Tap the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to everybody that's pulling up. Been a while. Thank you to everyone who's tapping the screen. Come on, y'all. Nice to see you all. One second here. Salutations to you, those of you who are in Africa, those of you who are in Europe, Australia, Asia. Bro, I've been busy, brother J7. Man, the last 2 weeks been a busy 2 weeks. Like crazy busy. I didn't even have time to sit down and host TikTok. That's right. There is no God. There never has been and there never would be. If you don't like it, you should cry about it. Crying is very therapeutic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for everyone who's tapping the screen. Thank you so much. Yeah, we should have enough time in the next couple of weeks to be consistent. So we got everything done last 2 weeks really. But please tap the screen. Let's get to 10,000 likes. There is no God, there never has been, there never would be. And Jesus cannot save you. When you come up, please go straight to your point, like I always say. If you come to talk about something which is not related to my topic, I'm just going to drop you. All right? So try to stick with it. Yeah, you're right, Miles IG. Lucifer cannot save you. Fictitious characters can't save anybody. What's up, Randall?
How you doing?
What you got today? Straight to your point, please.
I'm sorry, what?
As a matter of fact, I give you the first 2 minutes. You can say whatever you want to say. Then when you're done, then at that point, it's not a conversation anymore. It's an interrogation. But go ahead. You got 2 minutes, bro.
All right. First of all, So first of all, I don't really agree with your stance. I do believe there's a God because the universe is so grand, and even science can't really explain everything. So therefore, there's something that is above, our intelligence that we just haven't discovered yet. But we have, writings of, a man named Jesus that walked the earth. So that's kind of like an evidence as to why I believe there's a God. Also, if there is no God, what is the sole purpose of, everything, right? It doesn't really make sense. And you'll be ignorant to believe that you're the only species in this universe, which is really, literally you just being low IQ if you believe that. So that's why I say, there got to be other beings outside of us.
You know what, bro?
Yeah.
One thing that I really enjoyed, that was 41 minutes, but I don't know. You have more to say? 41 seconds.
I would say also, there's a lot of ND experience that confirm that there's an afterlife. So that calls for an attention. Even if you don't believe that there is a God, at least look into it, man, and you realize that, wow, people are actually seeing the same thing. It's very similar. They all report that they come out of their body, they actually see their body lay on the bed, and they transition to another dimension. So, that's kind of like, more truth to why there got to be a God. So I do believe God is merciful, that he's literally trying to get our attention, but, people will still not believe, unfortunately.
You don't seem to only know. That's 1 minute and 30 seconds. I'm trying to hold myself back from saying something. That's 1 minute and 34 seconds. It's still 30 seconds, bro. Or you can just speak.
Still 30 seconds? I think you're wrong. that you say, because if you say there's no God, you're a fool, to be honest. Because creation itself points out to a God. Okay, the universe is very well ordered. Nothing can come from nothing. So therefore, who made it? That would be the question you should ask yourself.
All right, that's
Can't
2 minutes.
All right. You want me to keep talking or like?
Nah. It's my turn now. Now you're just a guest on the show now. At this point, all right, bro. You said so many things, but the first thing I got out of the first statement that you made was God of the gaps, right? What do I mean by God of the gaps? Oh, you know what? We don't know this. We can't tell this. We don't know how it was made. So it must be God. But your God of the gaps is not even that ridiculous. It's not even that ridiculous. It's worse than that. Your version of the gaps is not only it is a God, but it is my God. Right? That's a silly way of saying it. So you're assuming that there has to be a God, and then you're assuming that it has to be yours, and then you ignore every other reason that there is to be skeptical about having that type of worldview anyways. And to be honest, if you were honest with yourself and skeptical enough, you would acknowledge that your entire belief system and the reason why you think it's God is not really a matter of all that reasoning that you just told me. It's a product of your faith. It's not based on you looking at the world and figuring it out and calculating. Nah, that's how you feel. No, based on the story that you were told. And that you were persuaded by that story. So now you went into the world to make your experience take the shape and form of that story. No, let me finish. Now your other assumption is nothing can come from nothing. Nothing can come from nothing. What does that even mean?
Meaning that creation can't come from nothing. It must have.
But who told you that it was creation?
What do you mean? The universe is creation. You know that, right?
But based on what?
It's always been there.
Based on what?
Based on the fact that we know it has a beginning and an end. So
when did it begin? When did it begin?
That's what they don't know. Like eons ago.
How can you know that it has a beginning, but you don't know when or where it began, bro?
Well, science don't. They give like assertion to what they believe, right? So I'm just telling you, like they said.
Okay, so yeah, sure. I'm not even gonna argue with you too much. I'm not gonna dwell on whether it has a beginning or not too much. Okay. But I am gonna point out the fact that if you look at the way the universe is structured, the idea of the beginning in of itself is ridiculous, right? So when you imply that there is a creator, you've already eliminated every other possibility. That's all I was trying to say to you. Because it doesn't have to be a creation. Our world could literally be a transformation. There's a non-thinking system that has a level of order and a level of chaos. That is just a revolving door, but in cycles that are perhaps more than our ability to picture.
But then why is it humans can survive on this planet? Why can't we just be in Mars or different planets?
Okay, sure. I think that your question, before I answer your question, I think that you have a misconception that the reality that we observe revolves around humans. Yeah, and that's a symptom of believing in a personal God by faith. You think you're special. You don't look at existentialism from your perspective. If you're trying to see the broadness of it, if you're trying to look at it subjectively, understand your place, find purpose, I get it. But if you're trying to be honest about what you observe in the world, you can't. It's not about us humans. Do you think there's any insignificant thing in the world?
Insignificant thing?
Yeah.
Well, some of the animals, I don't really see why they exist, But I guess.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't even want to know an example, but I like that you gave an example. Now, look at those animals that you think are insignificant. What makes you think that there's no possibility that humans can just be as insignificant, and the only significance to humans is how we feel about the life that we live with each other? But outside of our own social community as a species, we're not that significant. The reality is true, because we don't see anything outside of nature being extremely benevolent to us without anything in return. We're the only ones that have a level to be charitable to each other, as far as our experience as human beings. True. But outside of our experiences, the world is not necessarily human-centric. So
Well,
you cannot
I think
describe your understanding of the universe from a human-centric perspective if you're just trying to observe and be honest about what you're observing.
well, I do believe the world revolves around humanity itself. I think if humanity goes extinct, there won't be any Earth. But here's the thing: we are very different from the animals. I don't think you argue that. Would you argue this? Where'd he go?
Being different from the animals and being better than the animals is two different things. I don't think anyone is arguing about if there's any differences among even us humans.
Mhm. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, there is that disparity, right, between humans and animals. We are more
What
superior.
specific disparity?
So we have more intelligence.
Do
More.
we really
We have
have more
morality. We have
intelligence?
morality. Yeah, we do.
Okay. If we have better morality than the animals, how come they behave better than us?
I don't know about that, bro. Have you been to the jungle? What are you talking about?
How many animals have ever created weapons of mass destruction?
Okay, so
No. Just
humans,
answer the question.
because
Morality,
they're
right?
not capable of that. That's a ridiculous question. They're not capable of doing that, bro. They can't build anything, right?
Are you an
They're not
animal?
capable
How
of
do you
doing
know that? Are you an animal?
it.
How do you know what an animal is capable of? In
Bakang, are
terms
you
of what?
trolling me, bro?
No. In terms of what it's thinking in its head. I think that there's
How
some
would a
animals
lion
that
build a
can think
weapon?
of the world as profoundly as
How?
we do. They might just not be
Tell me
able to
how.
express it.
Tell me how a lion would build a weapon. Go ahead.
If it even needs one, there's no immediate threat in its environment that makes it think that it needs that. And
Okay,
even
but
if it
I'm
was to
asking.
think that thought,
Okay,
the
say
social
it
this
happens, right?
hold up, listen. Even if it was to think that thought, the social cohesiveness that it would take among that one lion and the other lions is going to be harder for them to achieve because they are unfortunately in a world where another species has developed better social skills over time from its own primitive state, and that other species kind of has a level of domination, which is us humans. Because if we were still barbaric, chances is if another group of whatever in the world could have thought or figured out how to get along socially, how to settle and expand, then perhaps they would have had that opportunity. But now, again, as far as the
Right.
reality of the world, you are correct. As far as what we
Thank
are
you.
observing,
Thank you.
right?
So,
But it
so
doesn't take
you,
away possibilities, nonetheless.
yeah, I'm not disputing that.
So
I don't
when
know
you
what
say
happened.
intelligence, I think you should not measure it like one for one, because I think that animals do have some intelligence capabilities that we don't have.
Like
And
what?
to be
Like what?
honest, huh?
Like what?
You can hunt like a lion,
Bro, come on, man.
bro. If I put you in the
You really think
wild,
hunting is intelligence, bro?
bro, what?
Hunting is a skill set, man.
That is a product of
That can be innate too, right? So
no.
you
It
don't
cannot be innate.
necessarily. What?
It's bro, bro. The
All
lion
right.
receives information through its five senses, and it needs to be able to act on that information. It needs to be able to act on that information at a specific time in a specific way. It needs to approach its prey with a certain level of stealth. It needs to decide which one it's gonna pick because there are many. It needs to be aware of where its other allies are at all times in the grasslands, and it needs to strategically strike to make sure
Those are
that
instinct.
they get the desired prey.
You ever,
There's
you
also
ever
the
heard of?
possibility that the prey is gonna retaliate. You need to take that into consideration. That all of that is observed in their behavior when they hunt. It's a level of intelligence. Just because they can't speak English like you and I doesn't mean that you take that away from them. Those
Well, they
animals
live
have the
here.
ability to respond to stimuli and to make decisions beyond just plants. Maybe not as
Well,
complex as human beings, but good enough to be worthy of praise.
well, I'm not saying hunting is not intelligence. I just think it's more of a survival instinct. Like
Bro,
something
just
innate.
about
They have to
everything
do
that
that.
we do as human beings is a survival instinct, bro.
Uh,
Everything we do is to survive.
I mean, but do we?
Name any aspect of our intelligence which is not directly related to our need to keep surviving or to make our chances of survival increase. Name one
Nuclear
form of
weapons.
huh?
Nuclear weapons. Do we need nuclear weapons? But
Of
we
course,
made them.
from the
For what?
perspective of listen, the perspective of the humans who made the nuclear weapons was not to blow themselves up. So you see that the conflict of survival, even among the human species, sometimes can be at the expense of other humans. So instinctively,
But we
those
don't
who have
need
the
it though.
capability, hold up, bro. Unless you're saying that the person that made nuclear weapons is more intelligent than the person who did not, innately. right? Think of the Americans who made the nuclear weapons. Do you think that they are more intelligent than Africans who have never made any nuclear weapon?
I don't think that, but
Oh, well, but in terms of accomplishments, are they?
yeah,
Okay, but innately, simply as species to species, are they?
innately. What do you mean by
Yeah.
that?
Means the
I didn't.
potential that an African person is born with to
Mhm.
demonstrate intelligence in all that's possible, depending on what resources they have.
Yeah, given the resource, they can do the same, right?
Exactly. So you see that
Well,
it
animals
creates
can't.
certain hold up, it creates certain advantages. That's why you end up having families like the Trumps, dynasties of wealth, right? That dominate society from a specific degree to where the children of poor people can't even imagine what it's like. That's why we have such a thing as
Right.
British royalties all around the world. There's different types of structures in society where there's specific groups of people that excel at different things. It doesn't innately mean that they are better than those who are not. So just because we human beings are surviving in the way we are surviving doesn't mean that we're innately better than the animals. Chances is their brain probably works just as well, but the anatomy doesn't allow them to accomplish it. You know, the
So
rest of the
wait,
anatomy.
do we have the power to wipe them out?
We do have the power to wipe ourselves out, even.
No, no, not us. I'm saying the animals. Can they defend themselves against us? So we're more superior,
Hold
bro.
up, hold up, hold up. Are you talking about the entire animal kingdom, or are you talking about everything else which is not human?
Well, what the entire animal kingdom?
So anything, every other living thing in this world which is not humans, do they have the power to wipe humans out?
They don't have that power to do that.
Yeah, you try viruses and bacteria. Why do you think we
No, no,
panic?
see, see. I'm not talking about
Hey,
those
hold
kind of.
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Like I said,
Bro,
you should try
what are you
viruses
talking
and
about?
bacteria.
I'm talking about mammals, sea animals, aquatic animals. They can't. You do you see virus? What are you talking about? You can't
Bro,
see
let me
that.
ask you a
It's
question.
some. Dude,
Let me
you're
ask you a
funny, man.
question.
Yes, sir.
According to official reports, now, if the official report is not accurate, then that's on them. But it still fits logically what I'm about to say. Where did the 2019 pandemic originate from?
China.
What exactly transpired that brought it about?
I think they did like experiment with animals. Was it?
Something with a bat.
Yeah. Okay, but that's humans doing it, right? I'm telling you, animals don't really do it. They can't
Bro,
eradicate it. We
they
can do
have
that.
that capability. Think of listen. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, especially not talking intentionally, but there are species in this world that can bring about our doom because we are still biologically vulnerable. In fact, in terms of biology, we're perhaps
Example.
the most vulnerable.
Example, bro.
Bro, do animals need to wear clothes in order to deal with weather conditions?
Okay, that's I don't think clothes.
Bro, I'm asking you a question. If I
No,
put you
no,
in the
no.
North, hold up. If I put you in the North Pole, right? And I put a
Yeah,
polar bear, who freezes to death?
I freeze
Why not? Why?
because
Why?
my body is not sustainable. I haven't adapted yet, according
So you
to.
see that the polar bear's body is more intelligently made. His structure, his shape, his anatomy is more intelligently
Wait.
made in that
No,
aspect, right?
you
So
said it's
much
more
that if you were
intelligently
to
made.
fight against that polar bear one on one in that environment, you would lose every time.
You said it's more intelligently made by who?
Naturally. Remember,
You
don't
gotta
don't
use your
try
words
to
carefully, bro.
don't try to assume as though we're not technically in an internal critique type of way, right?
Right.
Because when we're talking of intelligence, I didn't even make the argument that intelligence is a natural thing. We're still assuming that intelligence is based on what you're thinking. It originates from an intelligent being. That's where your argument draws from, right?
Yeah. I do believe God gave us intelligence. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not speaking of intelligence outside of that context. Now, if you're speaking of intelligence the way I'm speaking of intelligence, bro, then at the end of the day, anything that dies is no more intelligent than another thing that dies. That's my view when it comes to that. So if we're not talking about intelligence based on you thinking that it originates from a god, intelligence from my perspective, which is just the ability to survive, bro, all living things die anyways. So who can really say who
But
can dominate
wait.
who? You know what I'm
But
saying, bro? And all living things have a level of defense mechanisms. We have defense mechanisms, bro, but we can't defend against everything in
but that's
nature.
innate, though. That's what I'm telling you. It's innate. It's not something you can learn. I mean,
It's not. Hold on, hold on, hold on.
wait, let
What
me
is
rephrase. Let
innate?
me rephrase.
What is innate?
inbuilt. So you're born with it, right? You're
You're
born
born
like
with
you're
what?
born with survival instincts.
You're born with what?
With survival instincts, right?
Okay, bro. Let me
You
ask you
must
a
survive
question.
as
If the
a
Europeans had never brought guns to your village, do you think the people in your village would have ever thought of making a gun?
my village. Why would my village need a gun? We don't need a
Bro,
gun for
bro.
survival.
If the
No, we're talking
Europeans
about
had
survival here, bro.
listen, brother, Randall,
What?
Randall. If the Europeans had not brought guns to your village, do you think your villagers would have ever imagined how to make one?
Um, not really.
Are you trying to say the Europeans are more intelligent than your villagers?
Like, well, when you say village, right? You're talking about like those rural areas, right? Like they're not aware of technology and all that,
I'm
right?
talking about the rural area that you come from. Where you come from?
I don't come from a rural area, bro.
Where do you come from?
I'm from Canada.
Yeah, you were born in Canada?
Uh, yeah, no, I moved here when I was younger.
Where were you born?
Uh, somewhere in Africa.
Somewhere. Where in Africa?
Listen, man, that's not the topic, okay? But
but don't run away from it. You're from a village somewhere in Africa, right? We
I'm
are
not
all
from
from
a village,
villages.
bro.
We all have
No,
our
I'm not from a
villages.
village. I was born in the city, bro. No, I'm serious.
bro,
I
I don't know.
I know what you mean.
Bro, hold up. I don't know why no one ever told you this. If you're really African, bro, let me tell you something every
Yeah.
African knows. That
Mhm.
even the city is somebody's village.
Oh, really?
Because everywhere used to be a village before there were cities like that. Anyways.
So is
Right?
that same with the West? Same with the West?
The Western world is a little bit more intermixed. They don't really have that traditional type of culture that follows the idea of villages like ours. But like I could say, most people still have their traditional languages, their traditional dynasties, even areas that have become industrialized. So,
Right.
like I said, everyone comes from a village. If you're from anywhere in Africa, really,
All right,
maybe
cool.
not so much the north, but Sub-Saharan for sure, east, south.
More urban.
So,
Like rural
what
urban.
African country are you from? You from Liberia?
That's classified.
Classified. Thank you for your time, Randall.
Wait, you gonna kick me out, bro? Don't kick me out, man. Let's go.
No, it's time. It's time to go on to another guest
No, why?
because we
I'm
just
not
had
here
a
to talk about
conversation.
No, I'm not here to talk about me. Okay, I'm here to talk about.
Okay,
the
go ahead. Why
conversation.
do you want us to continue the conversation?
Why do I was enjoying it, right? I'm not
Okay,
Somalian, by
beyond
the way.
just how you feel,
What beyond how I feel? What do you mean?
why do you want to continue the conversation beyond that you're enjoying it?
Sorry, say that again.
Why do you want to continue the conversation?
Yeah, I want to know why you actually believe there's no God, bro.
How many times have you been on my show?
Multiple times.
How many times have we had this conversation?
Well, more than 4, I guess. 3.
Okay,
4,
at what point does it become insanity if we keep repeating ourselves and nobody's stance is changing?
I don't think. No, I think this is a new conversation. I wasn't.
No, the
opinion.
point is this is besides the point. The point is, at the end of the day, you specifically, bro, I've had sufficient enough conversations with you to understand where you're coming from, and I think you understand where I'm coming from. And I don't think that any of us is planning to change our direction of which we're going. So we can only ever have conversations casually, like we just did today.
So wait,
But on
having
the
this
subject of whether there
conversation-
is a God or not, there is not a God. I already told you multiple times why I think there's no
Wait,
God. There's no need for me to keep repeating myself.
Wait, are you having this conversation for people to convince you? Is that your end goal here? Because
Not necessarily. I
don't believe
think
that.
you see, mostly what I do on TikTok is to create a level of exposure on the aspect of religion and to see conflict and exchange as it's not typical in the real world because being up close, there's a type of pressure that doesn't allow people to really be themselves. So exposing why people believe the things they believe and think the way they think allows other people to be firm in their own understanding of the world, which I think that the most efficient one is to look at the world realistically before you go into any other way of looking at the world. Spiritually, metaphysically, you have to first of all be as real as possible. That will always give you the strength to be able to take action when necessary based on the things going on in your head. You will never derail so far into your head that majority of what occupies you mentally, or the most important mental things in your head, are things that you can't even act upon. They're just things that are like literally there to maintain a certain state of mind, which is how you feel about your existence.
I
Most
don't
of what
feel
is
like
in some
that.
people's heads is that. When in
No,
fact, bro,
bro.
if most
No.
of what's in your head, it's the practical reality of the world, problems that people are facing, solving those problems. If you're preoccupied with that, bro, you don't have time for anybody that if you say help me, they don't just pull up immediately. They have to make you wait and believe by faith. In the real world, nobody works like that. Even you
Dude.
Christians and believers.
No, bro. See, here's the thing. You have a misconception of Christianity, bro. I get what you're saying, right? Because many Christians are like that, right? They really don't, seek out solutions. They rather pray to God. But that's not me. I'm more realistic, But I just hold to the fact that I know there's a God. He gave his laws, and I must follow it because I want to go to heaven. Because this earth is dusty, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. But I operate in a realistic world.
Okay, if you're coming from that perspective, like I said to you, that's not a conversation we need to have, because like I said to you, I have given you my grievances against that multiple times, right? First of all, how did you come to the conclusion that there is a God, and specifically that God is interacting with you?
Good question, man. Good question. So, I studied the Word of God. Okay, I did lots of research with ND experiences. I think that's kind of like what really made me believe so much. Let me see what I do next. I also prayed too. Yeah, I prayed, and yeah.
You read the Word of God, you
Hmm.
listened to near-death experiences, and you researched near-death experiences, and then you prayed,
Yeah, and it was confirmed.
and
That's simple.
thanks to that, you concluded that there is a God, and that God is the God that you're praying to.
No, I knew there was a God before, but I didn't know which one.
That's my question for you, bro. Like, how do you
Right.
even come to a conclusion that there is a God? Okay, but let me give you an example. Perfect example, okay? Perfect example. Perfect. You're the only human in this world. You're born. Let's say for somehow it's a hypothetical. So somehow you can survive on your own. No one has
Yeah.
ever told you about anything or anyone else. It's just you and the animals. How long does it take before you imagine that God created the whole universe and that there is a God?
But see, here's the thing: you're missing the fact that God
No, no.
Himself came down.
Answer the question.
How
How
long?
long do
Well,
you think it takes for you to think or imagine or come up with the thought that there is a God who created everything?
so in this hypothetical, right? You're saying that I was just deposited on the earth just by myself.
Let's say yes, you are waking on the earth, you're just there by yourself, you know, from
Okay,
from from
that's
from
that's
babyhood,
not
from
realistic.
babyhood. It's a hypothetical because that's not the main point of the
Okay.
hypothetical.
Yeah,
Answer the main point of the hypothetical.
it'll take I don't think I can. Yeah, it'll take probably eons
Let's
to
say
figure
you
it
were
out.
that person. What how will you come to a conclusion that there is a God in that scenario?
Well, you're assuming that I was just deposited there, and
Technically,
no one actually did it. I
technically,
felt I'm
technically,
not Kryptonian, bro.
no, no. Check this out. Check this out. And then all of a sudden, this one person that thought he was the only one in the world with the animals walks and wanders upon a village where he sees a bunch of people that look exactly like himself when he used to look at himself in a reflection of water, right? He realizes that there are other
Hmm.
people like him. So he
Right.
goes over there. Let's say that at the point he's going over there, he's already imagined that there is a God. Do you think he would want to share his idea with anyone that would listen?
Why not?
Okay, once he shares that idea, once he's able to convince a few people, and those people convince a few people, and you know what? The idea just keeps going that there is a God. You know, if people ask, hey, look, when did we first thinking that there was a God? Well, there was a guy that came from the mountains. He was all raggedy, and he said that he had figured out the world. He said there was a God a long time ago. He was holy. You
Well,
know,
can
people
I ask you a
elevate that
question?
guy, but that guy is you all along. You just woke up. You know, you
Wait.
somehow you
Can I
figured
ask
out
you?
after what?
Okay, so can I ask this question for your analogy, right? So this God, right? It doesn't exist, right, in this analogy. But I just assumed that there was a God. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, let me show you the scenario. The scenario is you're born into this world. I said, baby, you don't know shit about this world. You don't have any beliefs. not inherent beliefs or any inherent imagination that there is a God or something like that. Now, unfortunately for us, we can't take care of ourselves as babies. So as we're growing, we need some type of care. And it's part of our biological process, right? There's always some
Yeah.
other form of our species there. So far, at least, based on what we see, whether it's a father, a mother, an uncle, right? There's always someone there to take care of you. And as you're growing, though, you don't get to learn from the world unimpacted by the environment that's already around you. And part of what is impacted is the way you think, the things you think about. So the idea of God and the idea of deities and supernatural stories and fictions and sciences and crafts, they're all transmitted that way into us when we're first born into this world.
Wait, hold on, bro. Hold on.
We might as well be that guy that was just on the hill and just woke up in the world one day and there was a bunch of things.
Wait. So in your analogy, who told me that there was a God or there's an idea of a God? Who told me that?
The culture that you grew up in.
No, you said I was deposited, right, as a baby. So I've never had interaction. So I'm asking you, who told me of an idea of a God?
Those are
According to your
around you.
analogy.
Your environment.
So I interacted with people
Yes, you
in this
did.
analogy? And they told me.
No. We already left the analogy. And I was showing you, listen, I was showing you how the analogy relates to my real life point I was trying to make. My real life point is that you are that person as a baby in this world when you're born. You don't know anything. You have to learn about the world. You have to learn about yourself, right?
Let me pose this analogy to you.
You go on to learn many other things, including what people think, especially those who are around you. And the idea of God is just one of those things. The idea of Santa Claus is just one of those things. And in different places in the world, you receive it in the same way.
Okay, but
ideologically.
I gotta test you on this analogy, right? So say you were deposited on the earth, you had no interaction, okay, and you grew up all by yourself. Would you have the idea of God?
No. But you know what idea? Hold up.
Hold on, bro.
Let me tell you why I wouldn't have the idea of God. In hindsight, because you're asking me here now. But if you ask me if there's a possibility that I could end up imagining a supernatural being, I say yes. But if you ask me if I would, I would say no. Now, based on my answer that I said no.
What would prompt you to imagine that? What will prompt you to imagine that?
How I react to what's around me, okay, and which emotions I develop the most. If I develop strength and courage, first and foremostly, as soon as I first get into this world, the chances of me relying on external sources for help would decrease. So the likelihood of me imagining some supreme being will also decrease, especially if I'm in a world where it's just me and animals. If I'm surviving just fine, I'll be fine. But the more problems I encounter, the more things generate fear, shame, and guilt in me, the more I'll begin to need help from anything outside of myself. And the more I'll likely be to imagine a godlike entity being external of me. Now, let me give an example on the hypothetical that you gave. Even if I was in the world alone, I think that it is not harmful to imagine that there could be another form of life. So imagining that there is a God and imagining that, look, there could be something other than human, it's two different things. And imagining that there could be something other than humans is more realistically observable, possible, and it actually is consistent with the way that our knowledge is growing in today's society. If we are to be in this world right now and we're trying to make peace with each other, and there's a possibility there's some external entities which are not humans, bro, that's a serious problem from a human perspective, because we don't know if these forces are benevolent or malevolent. Now, based on all the stories that your religion is telling us, it seems like a day will come when humans will have to turn against each other, inspired by some external source, right? And there's different stories from all around the world about different types of scenarios. So what do we ought to be doing as human beings? Believing in gods and worshiping gods and building temples? No, we ought to be developing ourselves, the way we think, our skills, our weapons. We need to run different scenarios of different types of beings that could come into our world. They're benevolent. We get along with them just fine. We have a political system. We have a system of leadership, right? Our leaders will pull up. Joe Biden and the president of Cameroon, they will pull up together. Not Joe Biden, he retired. The president of Cameroon is too old. Donald Trump, and Tinubu from Nigeria, they will pull up in the sky. They'll have a conversation with Jesus or Lord Shiva or Muhammad or whoever's coming back. Or aliens, who knows what, maybe Superman. They'll have a conversation with them. You know, and if they decide that, oh look, we're just here, we're just curious, no problem, they'll make that decision. If they want to fight us, then at that point we will call Xi Jinping in China. My friend, do you have nuclear weapons? You know, Russia. I call everyone that has bombs. You know, it's time to go to war. So now,
Right, so
if what you believe in is one of these scenarios, bro, think about how
no,
that
wait,
sounds
hold
from
on.
a realistic perspective.
No, I was trying to attack the idea of where God came from, because there is definitely no way that humanity would imagine a deity as God if God never came down to reveal himself to them. There's absolutely no way. That's why we have different false
Okay,
gods, because
okay,
they're trying to
hold
replicate
up, hold up, hold up,
what
hold
had
up,
happened before.
hold up. I like that analogy that you just gave. This is good. This is good. I like it.
All right, I'm cooking then.
You said no, not that you're cooking. You're setting yourself
Cooking
up, and I
sausage,
like
bro.
it. No, hold up.
You already
Check this out.
what's
Your
that
very
Nigerian?
statement has created a possibility that damn near invalidates your entire argument, bro. If you're
Okay.
saying that there's no way that human beings can imagine God unless an external source approaches them and identifies as God, is it possible that did not just happen, but that happened in multiple instances all around the world to different peoples? And these entities, in order to dominate or domesticate human beings, presented themselves as absolute, almighty, powerful beings. And that's why we
Okay.
observe human beings all around the world having some type of,
No.
idea of gods. And those gods always take different shapes and forms, right? So if your argument is that human beings cannot imagine gods unless gods approach, what are the chances that what we're actually observing in the world is an approach from an external source, which are not in fact gods?
So what are they?
Just external entities. We call them extraterrestrials. They could be anything.
So
Until we find out, we can't really make a determination.
wait.
They could be less than
do
us.
they have?
They could be better than us technologically. Who knows?
Oh, okay.
We need to be prepared for all contingencies.
Okay, so if they came down and revealed themselves, then guess what? We can observe them, right?
If they come down and reveal themselves, we will have an opportunity to observe them.
We can't, right?
Why?
Because it's a different dimension. So obviously,
No. I'm not talking about no cuckoo gaga. No. I am not talking about cuckoo gaga. When I say that external beings, bro, I'm not talking about like some imaginary shit. No, I'm talking about real people, and whatever shape or form they take, that are visible to us and comprehensible to be real people.
So hold on. So
that's what I'm talking about.
Wait. If real people came down, right? Do you actually think humanity are that dumb to believe they were gods?
It depends on how technologically advanced humanity was when they came down.
Sir, but kind of,
bro, do you know how your uncle?
If
do you know how? Hold up. Bro, you don't know what fear does to the human brain. Do you know what your uncle or my uncle thought when they heard a gunshot for the first time, when those white people pulled up and we gathered a bunch of people from our village to go and intervene, and then we didn't know, we were strong, and there was only 3 of those white guys, and then all of a sudden one took a stick, and in that stick, out of the stick came thunder. Your uncle was my uncle back then, so your uncle must have told you this story as well. You remember how they ran away?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. You keep telling me I'm from a village.
No, listen.
Hold on, bro.
Listen to the main point. The main point is that, bro, when the Europeans came to Africa, we were not exposed to that type of technology, and there were instances where our people ran away at the sound of gunshots. It was terrifying.
They thought the Europeans were gods?
Bro, at that point, there were rumors going around that the Europeans carried thunder in their hands.
No, I'm asking you, did your uncle thought they were gods?
Not necessarily.
Okay, thank you.
Listen, Randall. I get it. Okay, I get it. That's why I'm not done with what I'm saying. I'm trying to build it up for you. It starts with that type of superstition, where something happens that surpasses our capability to understand it in the moment. We run away, and whatever we think of it becomes a superstition. It goes all the way up to the highest level of the things we believe in this world. Science is the how do I put it? Is a saving grace, because science imposes that if someone is going to get away from that situation and come up with a story, they better provide evidence beyond shadow of doubt. Because if we just go based on people's stories, we're going to be confused. We're never going to learn. We're never going to grow as human beings. If the world had just stayed in a state where people ran with what they believed about the gods, and human beings did not pretty much rebel against the gods by venturing into the arts of the gods, trying to manipulate nature to make our survival more likely, we would have stayed riding horses rather than flying in airplanes.
I don't think God is against that though. Like, why you keep saying like we're dependent on God? Like, God wants us to grow in knowledge. What do you like? Bakanga, have you read the scriptures, bro? God is not against that, bro. He wants you to do that.
Again.
So I don't understand why you're using that as a way
Again.
to argue.
You believe that what's in the Bible is God saying it, right?
It's inspired by God. Yes.
Bro, you can say it was transpired, conspired, desired, crafted,
because the Bible is written by men. I'm not like
transformed, incarnated, reincarnated. You can say it was anything by God. It doesn't change the fact that you believe that.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
Not because you have any actual evidence beyond shadow of doubt, simply because you were told so in the book.
No, I did my research. I just told you, bro.
Did you do any research outside of the book?
ND experience.
Okay, how many ND experiences are in the book?
Not you said outside the book. Now
Yeah. So you went outside the book and you looked at near-death experiences. Now, inside the book, what does the book say about experiences that are not endorsed by the book?
Don't go to the book. Don't go to the book. So here's
bro. Just answer the question first. Answer the question. No, answer the question.
Answer your question.
No. What does the book say about experiences which are not endorsed by the book?
What do you mean? What does the book say? God Himself gives visions. What are you talking about?
Does the Bible promote near-death experiences?
Yes.
Give me an example in the Bible.
God said He will pour out the Spirit in the last days. Do you know what that
means? So
a
near-death experience is God pouring out His Spirit?
So, of course, because that's a revelation, right? God is revealing the truth.
Bro, check this out. A near-death experience is a person who claims that they died, right?
And they came back, yeah.
Okay. How many times in the Bible did someone die and come back with a story?
Well, we don't know because it wasn't recorded, but I'm sure people did.
Does the Bible endorse listening to people who die and come back with a story about what God wants you or not want you to do?
Why did Abraham tell Lazarus?
Bro, that's not the question. The question is, does the Bible endorse you believing that somebody can die and come back and tell you about heaven or hell? Does the Bible endorse that?
Yes, because Abraham in the Bible.
Hold up. Do you know the story of the story Jesus told about Lazarus and the rich man?
Yeah, that's an actual thing that happens, not a parable.
Okay, so that was an actual thing that happens. Then what do we learn from that story? What do we learn from that story?
What do we learn? Greed.
Okay, you clearly don't know the story. So the rich man and the poor man both died, right?
What was
the rich man and the poor man both died, and the rich man went to hellfire, and he was begging for a drop of water.
Why was he in hell?
He even begged Father Abraham to send his brother, to send a messenger back, or to even send him back so he can warn his brothers, because they are also living the way he was living. And I think Father Abraham or God, I'm not sure exactly. I haven't read that recently.
Abraham.
Yeah, Father Abraham said to him, they have Moses and the prophets. Even if they don't believe the prophets and Moses, even if you were to rise up from the dead, they won't believe you.
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus is the one himself who told that story, right?
Right.
Other than Jesus dying and resurrecting, and then I don't know if Jesus even came back and told stories of heaven and hell. I guess you can consider Revelation a version of that. But let's put besides that, let's remove Jesus as a character. Let's just use other normal human beings. Was there anyone else in the Bible who died, went and saw heaven and hell, resurrected, and came and shared the information?
I do believe. I think it's in the Bible. Elijah, he rose someone from the dead, right? I don't remember, but
yes, Elijah and Elisha both resurrected a child from the death. Yeah, okay, but the child did not come back with a story of heaven and hell.
No, you don't know that because it wasn't recorded. Okay,
Bro,
the
bro,
Bible never
bro, bro.
expanded
When
on
you
that.
say that it wasn't recorded, you're implying that it is already a known fact. It's just not recorded. What?
Yeah, because they believe in the afterlife, unlike us right now. So it's different.
Hold up, hold up. You're saying that the child that was resurrected by Elijah had a near-death experience?
No, I'm not saying that. The Bible didn't speak about what he saw in the afterlife,
Did the
right?
Bible say that he had a near-death experience?
No, no.
So why are you assuming that he even saw anything?
So when according to scriptures, when you're unalive, you either go down to Sheol. What are you talking about? You go down to Sheol, so you're
Okay,
seeing
then why
something.
did Solomon say that the dead know nothing?
Because in Sheol, you are not aware of anything. You're just in constant pain.
So if you're in
What?
show and you're not aware of anything, how do you know you're in pain?
Because you have your five senses. You're not aware of the activities on the earth, but obviously you can see what's going on around
So
you.
to say that the dead know nothing, he wasn't
But
specific
kind of,
whether
you
he's
know
talking
this,
about
bro.
nothing on earth or nothing in hell. If they know something in hell, that's still knowing something. So the deaf know how to suffer. They know what suffering is,
You need
right?
to read it. No, you need to go back to the scripture and read it
No, you need
because
to. You don't even know where that is.
okay, wait. So Abraham and Lazarus, did they know nothing? Abraham and the rich man. Then Abraham
That's
was
listen,
speaking to
listen,
him. So
listen, listen,
Abraham knew
listen,
something.
listen, listen,
Abraham was aware of where he
listen,
was, bro.
listen.
You just
I
didn't see
like
it
that.
yourself, man.
I like that. I like that you say it that way. That's why Solomon's statement and the idea that there is a heaven and hell, the Bible literally has a fat contradiction just sitting there that you
It's not
just
a fact contradiction.
look past it. Because
You
either
don't
the dead
understand.
know something or they know nothing.
They don't know what's going on the earth.
That's not
That's
what the
what the
verse
Bible.
says.
No, wait. Because the Bible deals with humanity on the earth. You know that, right? So obviously, when you die, you pass on. You're not gonna be aware of what's going on here.
Bro, how can you
It's
say the
basic
Bible
logic.
deal with humanity on the earth when literally the whole book is literally trying to sell you eternal life?
Because
You are
God is
obsessed and drowned with what happens after you die when you're not even done with what you're living right now.
well, because this is temporary and I can lose it anytime. So what's
So,
more important?
so what?
Eternity or this temporary?
This temporary is more important.
You
Eternity you're
funny,
gonna have
man.
forever.
Listen, man, I can remember 2010, okay? And right now it's 2025. That's 15 years, my brother. 15 years, bro. It just passed us
Bro,
by
you
like it
think
was
they remember in
yesterday.
2010 is impressive? There's people sitting here who can remember 1960, 1970, 1980.
Then they cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man. If they think that's like yesterday, then something wrong with them. But I'm just saying, time flies by so fast that you don't really have much time to even do what you want to do. So
That's why
why
you
would I
need to
be
be
so
real with
concerned?
yourself and not
I'm real with
preoccupy your
myself.
minds with delusions of what will allow you to cope with the fact that you can't deal with the temporary nature of the world.
Makanga, okay, tell me what I'm losing out of life for believing in God. Go ahead.
You're losing the one opportunity you have to actually experience what the world has to offer in all its dimensions, but you're choosing to
Like what?
seclude yourself. Hold up. You're trying to seclude yourself to a personal delusion just to end the same way. Now, you're not necessarily losing anything because I don't think anyone has anything to lose. What you're doing is that you're cheating yourself of the real opportunity to experience the most profound life that you can experience.
Okay, what is that? What is that profound life I
Being
have to
real with
experience?
yourself.
What? I'm real with myself. I'm real with
Listen,
myself, bro.
listen, listen,
What?
listen,
How
listen.
is that? What are you talking about?
Okay, if you're real with yourself, that means that you already know
Yeah.
that God doesn't exist.
Oh my God, that's not true. That's what you think. That's not what
Randall,
everybody
Randall,
thinks.
Randall, Randall, Randall,
Oh,
Randall. The question, the statement was you're real to yourself, right?
I'm real with myself. Yes.
You're real with yourself, right?
Hmm.
You have a real, like in your own self, you have a strong way of determining what is and what is not, right? You're not really confused. You wouldn't say you're confused about yourself.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not confused. No.
Okay, good.
Well, some
You
people are
know,
because they don't know what gender they are.
you know when something is there and is relevant, and when something is not there and is also irrelevant, right?
Well, I haven't seen space, right? I know it's there, but I have to
It,
believe.
wa-
I
it was
believe
it
it's
was
there.
it was it was a
So
yes or
what?
no.
No, but I'm just telling you, like, I don't have to see many things in order to know that it's there. I
Yeah,
know
but
it's
based
there.
on the things that matter the most to you in your day-to-day life, you don't deal with
Mhm.
the invisible. You're dealing with the visible. True, yeah or nay?
Well, air is kind of invisible, right? You can't really see it, so we deal with it every day. So what are you trying to say?
I'm
Oxygen?
talking about visibility as from the perspective of detection. Our five senses all put together.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
sure,
so
sure. Yeah.
exactly the fact that you did not understand that shows me that you're not really real with yourself. That's what I mean by real. To be honest,
Huh?
bro, like I
Yeah.
said, think of the word survival.
Okay.
What are the things that you need to survive in this world? I'll give you an example of real things, okay? Give me
I need
4
food.
of what you need the most to survive in this world.
I need food. I need women. I'm joking. I need food. Uh, I need food, air. What else? We need shelter too, right? Because of the weather. We need resource to survive as well. Uh, yeah, and obviously to maybe have a family. Definitely a woman. Yeah.
Those are the most important things to you in this world that you need to
Yeah.
survive.
Family. Family is everything, man.
Bro, those are the most important things for you in this world that you need to survive.
I think I gave you the basic ones, right?
Wow. Bro, you know what's funny, bro?
What?
You didn't even mention God. I told you don't really believe God exists.
No. You asked me what I need. Okay, you don't like. You don't
I
believe in
said
God,
most important things, 4 of the most important things you need to survive on the day-to-day basis
right,
in this world.
dude? So God is a spirit, right?
No,
We're
no, no,
talking
no, no,
about
no,
physical
no, no, no,
properties.
no, no.
These
Don't
are
tell me what
physical
God is.
properties.
No, let's
Don't
not
get
go
me,
into
bro.
dissecting it.
No, you didn't
Let's
get me. You didn't
no,
get
no,
me,
no,
bro.
no, brother
No,
Randall, brother
yeah.
Randall. Let's not go past that point. You already said it. Food, shelter, clothes, water.
I
Give me
misunderstood your question then. No, because I
4
was
things
thinking,
that you need to survive in this world on the day-to-day basis. You understood the question very well. But your natural instinct responded, bro, because it's beyond common sense for you to have said anything other than what you said. Food,
bro.
shelter, rest. Well, what else did you say? Resources. Yeah, those are real things. Those
All
that's
right. So
and hold up. The whole
wait,
goal
I'll
for
tell
me
you what.
doing this was to show you what grounds
Noise.
our
Who else?
reality, right? Because we make all this noise at the end. The idea that survival of the fittest, all those Bibles you read, is the person who survives that is going to determine what it says in the future. If it's going to say the same thing or it's going to change. So you can believe
Okay.
all what you believe. You can think all what you think in your head. I can believe all what I believe, think all of what I think in my head. But if I don't live a life that has a direct impact upon those real things, check this out, bro. I'm delusional. That's what delusional is.
All right, hold on, bro. So yes, people go around the world, right? They live their lives not needing God. You know that, right? But God Himself is needed for eternal life, right? Because guess what?
That's why,
It's why
bro.
it's why
Listen,
Jesus
do
gave. So
yourself
I'm
a
so
favor.
if you ask
Don't
me
try
if
to
I
break
cared
it
about
down.
eternal life,
Listen, brother, this is
no,
not
no.
a good point. This is not a good point to break it down
How is it not a good point?
because no matter what you say, it's just proving my point that you are delusional because you just said out of your own mouth what are the most real and most important thing in the world. Now you are spending all your energy trying to justify why something
No,
that
bro.
is purely what you conjured up in your head is now all of a sudden the most important thing, bro. Whatever you think God is in your head, that's good for you. But as long as you have food, shelter, and a place to stay and good people around you, that's survival. Survival is the core of our reality. If you're real with yourself, you understand that.
But
You
you
know,
need
it's
you
not
need
like you're a rich man who is so rich that you have no problems. Even rich people have problems. It's not like you're a poor man that you're so poor that you're so miserable that now you just need something supernatural to help you out. No. If you haven't reached the point where you're so rich that money can buy anything for you, you don't really need a God at that point yet. If you haven't gotten to a point where you are completely hopeless, like hopeless, the only thing you got is literally the breath going through your nostrils. You don't need a God yet. All those problems can easily be resolved literally based on our
I
human to
just
human
told you, bro.
relationship, right? So
It's more of the
using those
afterlife.
things as reasons why we need God in of itself again, you don't need God for that. If that's the reason why you're imagining a God, you're wasting your time. And even if there is a God, there's no guarantee that God intervenes in those activities.
Okay, but I'm saying I actually think we need God on the earth. But you asked me what I maybe I misunderstood the question. I wasn't really thinking about spiritual aspects of things, you know. So
No,
that's
no, 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 no,
my
no, no,
fault.
no,
I was
no,
talking
no.
about the
Listen,
physical, what
listen,
I
listen,
need to
listen.
actually survive.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
what I was.
The
That's what I
moment
was
your brain,
comparing.
listen, bro, your brain doesn't have the ability to go spiritual without being unrealistic. That's why when I asked you a realistic question, you instinctively answered realistically. No, your answer was correct, was on point. Food, shelter. You know what
Because
shelter is?
human, That's
It
applied to
comprises
everyone.
of the realest things in this world, and everything else weaves its reality from that. If you don't have
But
food and shelter in the world, you can have God and all the angels, and you still die.
Bakanga, wait, hold on. According to the scriptures, right? God knows not everyone will follow him. So people are saying they don't really need God, right? So you proving my point.
Bro,
So following
Bro, let
God
me
is a
tell you
choice.
something.
It's a
Stop
choice.
going
It's a
according
choice.
to the Bible. If you're gonna go according to the Bible, what people do is irrelevant, because apparently God already knows the beginning from the end, and He's still choosing to allow certain people to turn out the way they want to turn out. So that means that God never planned for everyone to go to heaven, anyways. So imagine a person whom God did not plan to go to heaven wasting their time doing God things. Don't you think that that's unfair? Let them enjoy the one
Bro,
life that God had already planned for them to have anyways. Now if you think you're going to heaven, sure, spend your time in there. But the
but
chances is there are many of you who are so-called believers who are destined for hellfire. Your God already decided you're going to hellfire, but you're not busily wasting your time in that religion, following rules and rituals made by people who didn't even like you.
well, that's not how it works. But obviously it's God's house, so you gotta abide by his rules. Okay? So if you want to go to his house,
What is
you gotta
God's
obey
house?
what heaven.
God has a house.
It's kind of like a metaphor, but yeah, God has a dwelling place. Yeah.
It's kind of
Heaven
a
is God's house, bro.
metaphor. Yeah, you better metaphor it up. You better make
Wait,
it
wait,
into poetry
wait,
before you start
wait, hold on,
saying.
bro. God's house, God dwells in heaven, so it's literally his house. What do you, am I missing something?
Where was God dwelling before He made heaven?
That's a good question. So, well, you gotta pose the question when he created heaven, then, right? So, could be he somewhere that was maybe outside of the universe itself.
What's the name of that somewhere?
First of all, you can't play this game with me because even science don't know. So stop the
Bro,
cap, bro.
it doesn't matter
Stop
how
the cap.
smart a
Stop the
religious,
cap.
especially a Christian
You
is.
laughing at
You
me?
all that's exactly how you all sound to me. You're
How?
all saying the same thing. They're using different words. You're using simple words. Somebody else will use fancy words. You're all playing a child's game in your mind, and you've taken it so seriously that you've forgotten that in this world, you really only need food, shelter, and a place to sleep, and like good people around you. You've forgotten the
Well,
basics of life. Now,
I'm worried
if you
about
can
waffle.
develop and make your way of getting food more efficient, if you can make your shelter more comfortable, if you can make your relationship with the people around you improve, that's how you begin to build a worldview from that realistic foundation. That what is the four realist things that you need in this world? You build from there, right? Okay, you're like, okay, right now I have to go and walk around and look for food. What if I planted the food myself? Wow, that will not give you a sense of purpose. And then because you've done that, all those who are around you will have a good relationship with you because they don't have to go around walking around to pick food anyways. They can come to you, and with something of value, they can exchange for your food if you're not willing to give it to them based on pure charity. So if one of them is a carpenter, maybe he can make a table and give you the table in exchange for the food that you planted. Then you build from there in terms of food. In terms of shelter, hey, look, our family is growing, right? What's one of the most realist things that a human being needs? Shelter. You know what? Why don't we clean this land up and build another space so that somebody else can stay? Oh, look, now there's 10 houses in our neighborhood. Why don't we put a well so people don't have to keep going down to the stream? Oh, why don't we bring electricity? Just like that. And then we build and we build and we build. It's called civilization, bro. Human beings have been doing it since in different ways. So you don't need to imagine that now some supreme being needs to come down to teach us how to behave. That some supreme being needs to come down to tell us what's right and wrong. When our reality doesn't begin with the existence of a supreme being. When you're born, you're not born shouting in the name of Jesus. You learn that shit way after you were surviving based off the basics of life.
Wait, but we need God for morality because if you believe in subjective
Only
morality,
you need God for
there is
morality.
no.
There are people.
Wait.
Listen.
Mm-hmm.
This morality conversation, I literally can have the conversation the same way with two people. It's so funny. But anyways, bro, morality has no importance beyond creating good character mentally. So if your morality is not reflected in your character, it's useless anyway. Now, morality beyond character must exhibit itself through our actions. It must be observable. So it doesn't matter how good your morality sounds when you tell it to me. If I observe the way you're living and it's not consistent, your morality is useless. So everyone here has a morality. At the end of the day, the place of judgment is the actions that we bring out. So whatever it is that you use to help yourself to practice what you preach, to be the best person that you are. Good for you. Whatever the next person does, good for them. So you might be using Christianity, just fine. If that's what you think will help you have a good character, the next person might be using Islam. The next person might be using philosophy. The next person. The point is, people should be well behaved. People should make the best decision in different instances.
Says who?
Says us. Because we found it to be an efficient way of building social relationship. Remember, which is one of those fundamental, realest things we need in life. Food, shelter, good people around you, and resources. So if you have good people around you, you want to be a collective and productive member of that group. It's not a matter of heaven and hell, going to hell, burning in the flames. No.
You're kind of delusional on that. You know humanity will never be like that. So don't even waste your time.
You see, the goal is not to make humanity like that, ultimately, as if it's a magic stick that we just snap our fingers and the stick starts to burn in fire and then humanity becomes like that. No. It is something that the vision, obviously, yes, the vision is we want to envision a world where the whole world is like that. But the reality is we have to start with your brother who's next to you, your wife, your children, your uncle, your father, your mother. You start in those small communities. That's why you see that naturally in the world, we are in tribes, groups, races. We like to bond in those smaller groups because we find it easier to work with those people in order to practice what we think is religion, or what we think is good behavior, or what we think is tradition, or what we think is culture. But ultimately, it's us trying to be civilized, to be civil towards each other. Now, the more we are successful in those smaller groups, the more we can merge. That's why you have a place in the world known as the United States of America today. It's a perfect example of how human beings, decided to give up on the whole, I'm from this race, I'm from this tribe. They came together kind of like and tried to use everything they've learned from the past to build a society that will be more efficient. Though in the beginning it was very dark because hypocrisy was all over the face of the founding fathers of America. But the Constitution that they wrote was a good document because the Constitution can be amended. It's not the same as the Bibles and the religious texts of old, which don't have a legal system of amendment. You see, if the Bible was written in such a way that it can be amended legally and Christians, then you can just go in there and change it, right? But the U.S. Constitution, which is a document which does for the United States of America the same thing that a book like the Bible would do for a Christian organization, it sets the rules. The highest law in the land is the U.S. Constitution. Not the Bible, by the way. Nice one. Those of you who think America is a Christian country. Anyways, the U.S. Constitution, right? And that book can be amended. And I think most modern democracies follow that blueprint, including Canada, where you live.
No, Canada's worse, actually.
You see, that shows you what kind of document the Bible is when you start reading it. When you read the idea of law, hold up, bro. When I compare the Bible to the U.S. Constitution, you should have caught on to something. Imagine that 2,000 years from now, some group of crazy, really pro-Trump, pro-Americans take the 2025 version of the American Constitution and declare it to be the word of God and declare Donald Trump to be his Messiah or their savior or Donald Trump to be the messenger. And then they really gather around it. They elevate him. They do the exact same rituals that you Christians do with Jesus, that Muslims do with Muhammad, and Buddhists do with Buddha. They really do it because it's doable. Trump has enough followers to start a brand new religion if he wanted to. But with the U.S. Constitution as the holy book, you don't see that? It's the same thing that we're seeing with the Bible and the Quran. The laws in the Old Testament were meant to govern the behaviors of people nationally within Israel. They had a document which was the highest document in their land, which was supposedly the Testament, right? The one with the 10 Commandments. And then all the other laws were cultural laws about how to eat, how to treat your neighbor, food, the same kind of shit we got today. So somebody managed to compile all of that shit that was unique to Israel. And then someday convince the whole world that we all have to live by that it came from a God. And then we're out here in 2025 with all the AI, and we don't have the IQ to figure out that that shit doesn't come from God. They compiled it just like human beings compile documents. We write the best morals that we think we can write in a book, and then we give it authority. That's what constitutions are. The Bible is an old version of that style of authority of
But yet
governing.
we upheld. But yet we still upheld the Ten Commandments. So I don't know what you're talking about. Those are good laws, but yeah.
The Ten Commandments are not necessarily bad in terms of principle, not
But we
as
still use
laws.
them.
I see the Ten Commandments as something which can only be valuable if observed from the perspective of principles rather than laws. You don't really have to follow them as a law. If you can simply understand them as a principle, and some of them, not all of them, the idea that you should only have one God, it depends on your taste, really. You know, some people like to only have one wife, some people like to have 10. Some people like to only have one goat, some people like 20, right? In this world, as long as you're not offending or hurting anyone, you can have any amount of whatever you want to have, as long as it's not causing pain and suffering to anyone. So if you want to have 20 gods, it doesn't affect me. If you want to have 30 gods, if you want to have no God, no problem. Well, we are the ones making it.
Well, I'm just saying, man. I do believe that I'm gonna drop now because your guests are saying I should drop. But
Yeah, I know. You're the one
I
who said
just
you wanted the
wonder, man.
conversation to continue, but it's okay, bro. Listen to me, bro.
Yeah,
If you understand that your God that you believe in is a product of your imagination and there's nothing wrong with that, then my plea is not that you should stop believing, but you should take control of what you believe. And you might even take this advice, make it in your own image and run with
no,
it. It will still have the
no.
same mental effect on you in terms of productivity.
Kanga, you're wrong, man. There's life after this world, and when you see that, I really I hope you come to your senses, man. Because listen, the
Even
devil.
if there was life after
Wait,
this
let
world,
me finish though. Let me
no,
finish.
Randall.
Let me
Even if
finish.
there
Let me
was
finish.
life after this world, bro, I didn't have to do any effort to come into this current life.
So you don't
The
think you have
idea
to
that
work
I have
for
to
it?
do an effort in order to be in
Interesting.
the next one is ridiculous, bro.
But
Look,
here's the beauty.
so hold up. Let me ask you a question. If I don't get eternal life, what do I get?
You get the opposite.
What is the opposite of eternal life?
Separation from God.
There's no way you're that slow.
It's death, bro. Death is separation from God because your soul lives
Get
forever.
the Death is not separation from God. That's not what death is.
What is death?
Death is the complete cessation of all bodily functions.
Well, you're
Now,
talking about
if
physical
you,
death, right?
bro, hold up,
You're talking about spiritual death. See,
hold up, hold up. So, if there is death, which is spiritual, then it will simply just be the cessation of all spiritual functions.
no, that's not true because the
Bro,
spirit,
listen to me. Death is a
the spirit.
cessation. Listen. Death is a
Can't let me talk, bro.
cessation that of an entity in whatever conception you look at it. If you think that after spiritual, after physical, which your Bible says, do not fear the first death, fear the second death, right? Don't fear that you die, you don't have a physical body anymore. Fear the fact that God can destroy your soul. He can destroy you and make you to cease existing, which I think that's a good deal anyways.
No, he doesn't say that though. He said he can destroy both the soul and body in hell. He never said you won't exist.
How do you destroy a soul?
He destroys a soul by giving it constant pain, constant suffering.
That's not destruction, that's torturing.
Okay, what is the difference?
Destruction means it will cease to exist as a soul.
No, it did say that. It didn't say that. You know it.
Bro,
Stop with
if
that.
I destroy your house, that means the house will cease existing as a house.
Are the pieces still there?
Yeah, but the pieces are not the house.
Okay. So if God destroys the soul, right, the pieces are still alive. So guess what? Those pieces are going through tremendous pain.
What pieces is still alive?
I'm telling you what that scripture is referring to. We all live
And
forever.
when did the
Like it or
scripture
not.
say that when God destroyed them, the pieces of the soul are still alive?
In
Bro,
hell. Jesus literally said in hell.
listen
He
to me.
said,
Listen to me. Listen to
sir,
me.
they'll be
I
weeping and
don't.
gnashing of teeth. Hold
I
on,
am not
Bakanga.
responsible
Bakanga.
for whatever fantasies you are conjuring up in
Bakanga.
your
Wait. You
mind,
asked me
bro.
to clarify.
But on
You
this
asked me to clarify.
subject, you're not even the one that brought up the scripture. I did. So do yourself a favor,
Wait.
brother. Do yourself a favor, brother.
What's the favor?
Listen, you can believe whatever you want to believe. At
Thank
the
you.
end of the
You too.
day, we already agree, you and I. What's real is that you need food, water, shelter, and a
All
good
right.
place and good people around you. If you got that, bro, I think you'll be all right.
Okay,
Thank
but
you for your time, okay, my brother?
all right. Thanks for having me, man. It was a good conversation. See, it was different. Just let you know.
Random. Religious denial syndrome. The existence of the God you imagine has no value to your existence. If anything, it probably takes away value to your existence because you're not approaching it from a realistic, you're approaching it from an imaginary perspective. What's up, Hooded? Hooded is out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, man, I forgot about the screen, y'all. Please, thank you to everyone who's tapping the screen. Please tap the screen, tap the screen, tap the screen. Tap the screen, please. Let's get to 100,000 likes as soon as possible. Thank you to everyone that's hitting it. It's kind of stupid to send someone in eternity forever. Listen, if you didn't decide to be born, you don't have to decide to die or where you go when you die. If you didn't decide where you went when you were born, you don't get to decide where you go after you die. That's part of the imaginary psychological trap weaved within a certain religion to hold you hostage within your own mind, make you a victim of your own guilt, turn your shame into nightmares, have you revel in your own insignificance when chasing a God who doesn't give you any audience beyond what you imagine in your head. And you don't think that's a problem? What's up, Icon? Hello? Hello, Icon? I can't hear you. Next entity. There is no God, there never has been, there never would be. Jesus cannot save you. Oh, man, Pharaoh, you're looking for trouble, huh, Pharaoh? You know what, Pharaoh? I would have much rather like to hear you explain that. I'm curious why a guy like you would say that. But I mean, I kind of get it. I get it, though. I get it. Let me pin this comment that Pharaoh made.
Hey, Bakanga. So I'm atheist, so that's why I left. I don't have much to say, man. So,
How do I pin a
although
comment? How do I pin a comment?
I'd like to be a religious person, because yeah.
Comment
Well,
settings.
I'm agnostic, not atheist. I have no proof.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to learn this. Anyways, bro, thank you. If you're on the same team, good for you. Hold up. Did someone put in the comment section how to pin a comment? Long hold and pin. Oh, is that simple? What's up, man?
Good. What's up?
What you got?
So I was on the show the other time, I think about 4 to 5 months ago, and you and I were talking, and you started asking me you needed evidence, you need pictures, you need videos, but your show ended all of a sudden. So I'm back today. So you and I, we initially we are on the same team, but later on there's a little difference. So let me make it clear. If you say there's no God, um. I would say there is a supreme beings, not one, there are so many supreme beings that got more power than the human beings, right? But if we come to like the religious gods, like the other, like Christianity, Islam, and other things, those ones, I would tell you, in my belief and our belief, where I came from, they are like delusional. They are not real. People make those up, right? But if I'm talking about it, like the supreme beings, they perform miracles, they do things, they make things happen. For example, if you go to my village in Africa, they can invoke my great grandfather that died maybe 50 years ago. They can invoke his spirit. He tell me the past and he can also tell me the future. So all these things are happening. There's something that is supreme more than us. So this is why I want you to understand that The God of Christian, the God of the Bible,
Bro, so you're
absolutely,
saying
that
that
is just
every
a.
crime that was ever committed in Africa has been solved? Because if we have a way of talking to dead people, then if someone is killed, you can just ask the person who killed them.
Oh yeah, it depends. If you want to know who killed them, you can go to a herbalist or you can go to
Why
a
does the
witch
herbalist not
doctor.
set up a station and become law enforcement? Why has the government not acted upon this?
Bro, don't look at things narrowly, right? This
My
world that
brother, my brother,
is
my brother, my brother,
spiritual.
my brother.
It
I am simply asking you a reasonable question. Don't deflect from my question as though it's irrelevant.
okay,
If
ask
there's
a question.
truly a skill set in
Yes,
Africa where you
yes,
can talk to dead people and you can
yes,
even ask them questions, including who
yes,
might have murdered them or not murdered them, wouldn't
yes.
that mean that African leaders and those who are in Africa, if a common man like you can know this, certainly those who rule Africa will know this, can exploit that to create a system where we create a better society for ourselves to where we can know who killed someone, and then that will stop people from killing carelessly.
Okay, okay, that's a good question. But everybody that came from Africa, I don't know where you're from. If you ask, right, there are some things that when things happen in the town or maybe in the village people can send somebody to go and inquire what happened, and they will tell you what happened exactly, and the person will confess it, yes, I did it.
Do
So
you
there
know
are
what
people
village?
all over.
Hold up, bro. Hold up, bro. Do you know what the village people don't have?
What they don't have.
Good roads. That all that
And
witchcraft, all
I
that
know
nonsense,
Guru is
bro, bro,
different
bro,
from
bro,
that.
bro. Hold up,
Bro, bro,
you're not
listen
getting
to
my
me.
point. I'll be
This is
very
why
harsh
I
on it,
commented in your session. I
brother.
commented in your session.
All that nonsense is useless if it's not bettering society. What are you referencing to? What is it doing?
So it's
It
two
is the
different
same
things.
benefit as a fictional story.
It's two different
It's
things, right?
those
Being
stories that
useless
you
is
are talking
different.
about are just there for entertainment.
So listen there, I understand. I understand your point. But understand my point. It's real, it's there. It has nothing to do with good roads. It has nothing to do with electricity. It has nothing to do with development. It's spiritual. Spirit have nothing to do with development,
Brother,
right?
Africa is it a physical place or a spiritual place?
It's a physical place.
Okay.
And the thing
Well,
that we're talking about is spiritual. We are not talking about physical.
brother, brother,
So
brother,
you're
brother.
comparing two
So,
different things.
brother, wait. So people see spirits there, including you. Have you seen a spirit yourself?
No. So that hey,
Oh,
you should reason like
oh,
somebody who is really advanced, right? Spirit
oh,
make
okay.
you to see it. If they, not everybody born with that gift. You got to be gifted to
Oh,
do
okay,
that.
okay. And do you know
So
anybody who
this
can
is
see
why
spirits? Do you know
I know
anybody
a
who can see
lot.
spirits?
I know a lot.
You know a lot
I
of
know a
people. What's the
lot.
name of one of them
Yeah.
that I can reach out to?
If I call them, you don't know them. John.
John can see
Yeah,
spirits?
John. Yeah, John can see spirits.
How many spirits has
Do
John
not
seen?
ask. Hey, you gotta show. If you gotta show, you ask
Brother,
people that
how
are
many
logic.
spirits,
It's just a
have John
name.
seen?
John did not bring he diary to me to list the name of spirits to me. So that question belongs to John. I'm only telling you. You
Oh.
from Africa. This is why when you're up
Where is
here,
John right
you
now?
act
Where
like
is
you don't
John?
have tradition
Where is John right now?
in his house.
I know he might be in his house, but where in this world?
In his hometown in Africa. What are you talking about?
His hometown. Where's his
So
hometown?
okay, I understand you asking question. Let's be real. So you
Brother,
see spirit,
where
God
is his
does see.
hometown now?
If I say you don't know him, there's nothing will change.
Tell me the
So
name of the
let's talk
country.
about your
Yes, there
show.
is. Stop trying to say that what
Let's
I'm
talk
saying is
about your show.
irrelevant. This conversation is
But
not
it is
continuing, bro. If you keep
irrelevant.
acting like
It is
that.
irrelevant.
Bro,
Listen to
where
me
is
down
he?
because this is why when you bring people on your
Bro,
show, not only your idea makes sense. People got ideas that you don't know about.
Hello, my brother.
what's up, bro? What you got for me?
Yes, yes. I was thinking out here out loud to my mind, and I was thinking, right, if you don't believe in God, because I was thinking about the same page here earlier, how do you think the first humans was made without the existence of God, like the first human being?
First of all, I don't know of any first human being, and based on what I know about a human being, human beings came about in such a way that there's no way to really pinpoint who or what was the first human being, right? What we can tell is that
However,
human beings develop from multiple directions, especially species wise. We can also see that human beings are also categorized in unique categories based on certain traits biologically, and they can reproduce among themselves and sometimes in between groups. Now, as far as someone creating human beings, if there's a possibility that someone created human beings, it could be anyone. It doesn't have to be a god. Listen.
But how, do you know anybody that can create a human being? I don't know anybody that can create a human being. So you tell me.
Bro. Listen,
There has to be God. There has to be God.
you're not using your brain. Use your brain, okay? Check this out. Use your brain. If the science exists or the method exists to create humanoids, there's no way to say exactly what type of entity possesses that. It could be another civilization, which their own advent of life might have a different twist to it, which we're not privy to. Obviously, we can speculate all we want to. The point is, if human beings were created, there's no particular reason to jump to the conclusions that it was a supreme almighty being who has nothing to do but worry about what human beings feel and think.
Yeah, but I'm trying to say
we don't live in a one-dimensional world in terms of how we analyze ideas, especially ideas where we don't have any empirical evidence, right? It could literally be aliens. It could be that human beings develop naturally. There's multiple possibilities. The only real way to know is to literally get in the laboratory and begin to look at the human being at the smallest human level, cellularly. You have to do the experiments. That's the only real way to know.
A human being out like ourselves.
Say that again?
They say God is a human being, so God is a human being. So does that mean we're God as well? Because He created us. What you think? Cause there has to be something. There has to be something. Not the outside your parents. It has to be something else that made your parents.
Who said that God was a human being?
Look at the Bible.
Yeah, the Bible is not the only thing that says things about God.
So what do you think? So what do you think God is? Let me ask you the question.
Hold on.
If God isn't a human, so
God.
What is God then?
Listen. God is an idea that is represented within monotheism, right? Monotheistic religion. A monotheistic religion believes in a God as a supreme being and supreme creator and the source of all moral authority. A good example of a monotheistic religion would be Christianity. But Christianity is not the only monotheistic religion. There's also Islam and there's also Judaism. Now, I argue to say that Christianity is not a true monotheistic religion. It's really a polytheistic religion masquerading as a monotheistic religion. I'll say Islam is far more monotheistic and Judaism is far more monotheistic than Christianity, because the godhood is truly singularized in Islam, even better than Judaism, But in Christianity, it's pluralized. That's polytheism. You have three gods who can sometimes be one, and then other times they're separate.
And what do you mean by the three gods? The Spirit, the Holy God.
Is the Holy Spirit God the Father?
No.
Okay, so you have Holy Spirit, and then you have God the Father, right?
Correct.
Now, what's the nature of the Holy Spirit?
What left out? Like what's always going to be around?
No. What's the nature of the Holy Spirit? Is it God? Is it human? What is it? What nature?
God.
The Holy Spirit has a God nature?
Correct.
It is God.
Yeah.
Okay, and you said that the Holy Spirit is not God the Father.
Correct.
Now, is the Father also God?
Correct.
So we have two entities here.
Yeah.
But they have the same nature.
Yes.
But it's still two entities.
Yes.
So it's still two gods.
Yes.
Now, all you have to do is add the Son. You get 3 gods of Christianity, who can sometimes act as one. They're one in mind, purpose, ideas, but there's 3 of them.
But why did it have to be 3?
Because that's what the story says.
So
It's just
you
another
think
one of those many stories about the idea of God all around the world. So when you're arguing for God, you're not just arguing for the Christian God. I hope that you don't come up on the internet and when you hear the word God, you think it means Christian. No. God is a word that is utilized in different worldviews, including Islam, Hinduism, and many other traditional ways of looking at things. And they have different definitions too, to be honest.
So so how do you feel about God? Because you said Jesus
I
can't save
think
you.
I feel about God the same way I feel about Superman. I think it's just an idea. I think it's just an idea that, unlike Superman, is more intertwined with our culture than it should be. But because it's been for a long time, we just need to slowly transition away. It's probably going to take a few hundred years, if not a few thousand years, to be honest. Now, the idea of religion will not completely go away, in my opinion. I think it's just going to undergo a metamorphosis, like it's been doing so far. It's just going to keep changing to keep up with the times. So Christians 100 years from now will not be anything like Christians from today. Just like Christians from today are nothing like Christians from 100 years ago. If you think that Christians today are crazy, some of the things they believe, man, you should have seen them when they didn't have TikTok and Wi-Fi. There's a story right now. There's a story right now of a Nigerian, some African pastor. Okay, this pastor truly believed he had supernatural powers, and he had many followers who also believed him because they saw all the things he was doing and they believed in his miracles. One day, that pastor came and told his people that he had just spent time with God and he received a very, very, very strong portion of the Spirit. That at this point, there's God and then there's him. Now God has anointed him in this generation, and that he can prove it to them. That right now where he is, there's nothing in this world that can hurt him, not even an animal. In fact, he said to them, follow me to the zoo. Let me go and get into the zoo and play with the animals. I will play with the lions. Well, sure enough, they get to the zoo. His followers are cheering him on. He negotiates his way into the cage with the lions. At first, everything is all right. Yeah. At first, he walks into the cage. He sits there. The lions are minding their business. He's minding his business. Then he starts taunting the lions. It wasn't long before one of the lions came and sat down right next to him. He kept taunting the lion. Then the lion grabbed onto his arm. He tried to resist. Then the lion beat harder. Then he bled. As soon as he bled, the other lions were like, oh, well, it looks like it's dinner time. Yeah, apparently they ate him alive. Him trying to prove to his followers watched it happen. They were all there at the zoo. They watched the lion eat him because he thought he had supernatural powers. Now, to be honest, this is just a story that I also heard on the internet. My hope is that it's really not a true story, because I hope no one is that stupid to go and get into a cage with a lion thinking that you got supernatural powers, spiritual powers. There was one guy who drowned in Gabon because he convinced his followers that he could walk on water like Jesus. He drowned. Another guy, he convinced his followers that he could fast for 40 days like Jesus. So he went into the wilderness. They found him dead. You see, the funny thing is, these are the ones that make it to the internet. If you knew how much of this happens without making it to the internet, you would see what I'm talking about. The more religious the people are, the more you see the backwardness of a nation. Especially when the proportion of educated and intellectuals is far superseded by religious delusional people. I think every society can handle a little bit. But when everyone is like that, it becomes a big problem.
Yo, I got a question, my brother. What do you think about the devil?
The devil is also an idea.
Do you think it's
Listen.
You believe in him?
Let me tell you something. When it comes down to the real world and to the real anatomy of a human being, human beings experience something called shame, fear, guilt. These are negative responses to things that occur around us, whether it's direct impact or indirect impact. It impacts us and generates certain things impact us and generate fear, hate, anger, rage. And then there are some other things in this world that generate pleasurable feelings in us. Happiness, satisfaction, contentment, joy, pleasure. There are some things like that. Now, a smart person who wants to control people, you just have to create an idea that embodies all those negative experiences that people have. All those negative ideas, you put them all in one. Then you take all those positive experiences that those people have, you also put it in one. And then when you accumulate them, you call the bad one the devil, you call the good one God. And then you come to people and you tell them, you see that shame, you see that fear, you see that guilt that you're experiencing? It's the devil. And because I told you that it's the devil, I'm also going to tell you how you can protect yourself from the devil. Guess what? All those good, great emotions, the virtues, righteousness, and holiness that you experience in life, it's God. So if you want to experience God more than you experience the devil, do what I tell you to do to the devil, and then you will get God. But if you don't do what I'm telling you that God is telling you to do, the devil is going to have advantage over you. And then before long, I become the priest. Before long, everyone comes to me. Before long, I open another branch. Before long, I have a big-ass religion all around the world. And no one will ever ask the question if that God that I keep telling them about really actually ever spoke to me. And you allow this scam to run for 2,000 years or for even 1,000 years, the idea of if a God came and spoke to me becomes almost irrelevant. That's very consistent, what I just told you, with Islam and Christianity, how they developed as religions in their infancy. It always starts with somebody, bro. Somebody has an idea,
So you
somebody
think life,
else, and then with a few dumb people around you to be persuaded by anything you do. That's how movements start. It's
you
not
think
just
people,
religions that start that way. Many things start that way. Revolutions, countries, nations
so
start that
what
way.
is life then? Life, you think life is religion?
No, life first and
Science.
foremostly to us begins
What do you think?
biologically, right? So life begins biologically.
Is it science? Is it science? Is it science?
You say what?
What is life? Is life science or religion?
You can't ask
Well,
me
like
what is life.
how
Is
would you
life
understand?
science or religion? It's neither.
How would you define life?
See, life, I'll define it in two ways. One way biologically and one way generically. Generically, anything that has the ability to reproduce, grow, change, and adapt to its environment. Biologically, for us human beings, life is our physical bodies and its function. Now, our bodies are real and tangible, but there are certain ways in which our bodies best function in certain situations. And we've gathered a lot of experiences since we started being humans, or since we can remember being humans. And through those experiences, we've learned many lessons on what to do to the body to make it do certain things at certain times. And there's been different types of ideas, religious ones, scientific ones, philosophical ones. All that put together is part of this whole thing that we call life. So if you want to grow,
So
you want to find one of these things and grow in. But you don't want to just find something that is there to make you feel good. You want something that would be productive, that will allow you to make the world a better place. Now, if you believe in a belief that tells you that the world is fucked up anyway, don't try to fix it, then you become a useless member of society, which is what Christianity teaches its followers. According to Christianity, no Christian should ever leave an inheritance for their descendants. I mean, it makes no sense to leave inheritance for your descendants, because Jesus can come at any time. And you don't want him to come and meet you not ready. So why are you wasting all that time accumulating all that money, all that wealth? This world is passing away. This world is corrupted anyways. Isn't that what your religion teaches you?
correct.
Okay. So how can you function efficiently in this world when that's your view of the world? The rest of us,
Exactly.
we know that we're in
What
this
would you-
world and our descendants will be in this world. We better work hard and accumulate wealth so our descendants don't have to suffer, because they're not going to have anything else. They have no one else but what we live for them. They don't have a God or
But we gotta
spiritual
change the
beings to
mood.
come and give them food. No. If there was any God or spiritual beings giving food, we wouldn't have to work hard. We'll just allow the spiritual being to do his thing. We'll go about doing our pleasure, right? The spiritual being doesn't pay the school fees for your descendants, doesn't give them food or shelter, it doesn't protect them in times of war. But if your view is that the world is going to end, it's going to pass away, you never focus on that aspect of it, which is the real aspect of it. That's what actually matters to people. People don't matter who's better, if the Muslim is better than the Christian. It doesn't matter to people. People want what
So who do you
works.
pray to?
I don't pray.
So who do you pray to when you're trying to survive? Do you pray to the devil? Do you pray to the devil or do you pray to God?
I've never been in a position where I couldn't survive.
No, but I'm saying, who do you pray to?
I don't pray to anyone. I think that prayer is a
So
type of
when you start your
self-induced type
day,
of madness, because even if there was a God, praying is still useless. Prayer is the most useless thing a religious person can do.
why do you say that?
Prayer is proof that a religious person does not trust their God, does not believe in their God. The moment I see you praying, that's the first conclusion I draw. Because what are you trying to achieve? Are you saying that your God can be seduced in any way, shape, or form, influenced by your worship? You have the power to do something for a being who needs nothing? A God in the true sense, if a God exists, shouldn't have no need for worship, for adoration, for recognition. It's nothing personal like that. Now, you can tell your religion was invented because there's a whole lot of personal shit in it. Personal shit.
No, but no, 'cause I felt the same way. I used to pray. Who am I talking to? You know, so
You're talking to
it was hard for
yourself.
me to just.
If you knew that you were talking to yourself, then you can talk to yourself all day long. There's nothing wrong with it. The biggest problem inside of prayer in of itself is the fact that the person who's praying is pretending that they're not talking to themselves. So it's no longer self-reflection. But if you're just talking to yourself and you choose to play multiple personalities, you can do that. You can play the defendant and the accuser. If you're trying to figure something out in your head, if you're trying to investigate a crime, you can try to think like the criminal would think. You can think out loud. Okay, I'm about to rob this house. What am I gonna do? If you can't pay your rent, you can cry out loud. When life is too hard, you can cry out loud. And that's what people who pray do. They are crying out loud. They are crying in language. It's crying. It's the same thing a child does instinctively when the child can't help himself. Instinct, cry. If prayer was necessary in religion, it should only be necessary as your last option, means when you are at a point of absolute despair. But if you truly trust that your God knows what you need before you ask, it's actually disrespect for you to behave in any way that insinuates that God did not just see what happened to you and knows that he needs to help you out. God is going to wait for you to ask him first. The only person that has that kind of mentality is a
You're kind of
toddler.
right. So yeah, no, I just been told a lot of times it's good to pray before you do. But then I do all these things. But then I
Listen
feel
to
kind of
me,
crazy for
brother.
talking to myself. You
You
feel
don't
me?
have to
So hey,
lose your good character, okay? It's really just understanding and having a certain perspective. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world, and you don't have to be the dumbest person. You don't have to know everything that can be known. You just have to be real to yourself. I'm not saying you shouldn't believe in God, but don't believe in God in such a way that just makes you lose your whole brain. Now, there's that possibility that you could be wrong. Which God you believe in, don't underestimate that possibility. That possibility is like a little crack on the foundation of a skyscraper that no one pays attention to that crack. But that crack just spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads. And before you know it, destroys the whole building. This preacher that I just told you in Africa, I just told you guys a story of a preacher in Africa that went to the zoo and got ate up by lions. I don't think that he truly did not believe that he had that power. I think he really believed it. I think he believed that whatever power he had, the lions would not hurt him. And when he went there for the first few minutes and the lions did hurt him, he believed it even more. until the moment when he got a reality check. The lion actually bit his hand. Then he started crying out for the zookeepers. He didn't cry out to God. It was his followers that were watching that were crying out to God. Like, it's very typical among religious people. They go and pray for you from a safe distance. None of them rush into the zoo to go and help their pastor. And the pastor himself, he was calling on the zookeepers. The zookeepers were like, bro, we try to tell you not to go in there. And now we're even in trouble now because you better get eaten on our watch. Because you thought you had a supernatural power. Now, that behavior is an extreme case. Just about every other preacher or every other human being in this world that thinks that they have spiritual powers, they are headed in that direction of complete psychosis, where you are so completely removed from this current reality, you truly start to believe that you can do things that you really can't until you actually try and find out. The moment you start believing that you can do things that you actually can't, that you know things that you really don't know, the moment you twist your own perception of reality by interweaving reality with things like spirituality and your religion, which are not supposed to mix, by believing things without evidence and then rejecting other things for lack of evidence, are you confused? That whole confusion is what people then call spiritual power. Because when they say it to you and it doesn't make sense, they'll just say it's spiritual. When they take the confusion and they present it to you in gentle, sweet words, and you're like, bro, that makes no sense. They're like, yeah, it makes no sense to you because you're carnal. You're not spiritual enough. Thank you for your time, brother.
We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. It doesn't make you a bad person to be religious, and it doesn't make you a bad person to not be. It doesn't make you a bad person to be religious, and it doesn't make you a bad person to not be. Religion is by choice. It's a convenient form of entertainment for people who have nothing better to do with their lives. It's okay. What's up, Joey? What's up, Joey? All right. Joey is not of this world. Joey might be one of the gods. Tap the screen, tap the screen, tap the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to 100,000 likes, please. Tap the screen. I appreciate everyone tapping the screen. Please do not stop tapping the screen. Help me reach my life goals. If you like what we're doing here, please be generous with your donations. If you got something to spare, if you ain't got nothing, don't worry about it. You commit no crime, you do no foul. I still appreciate if you tap the screen, though. Thank you. What's up, Hosa? There is no God. There never has been. And Jesus cannot save you. If you think Jesus can save you, you've been scammed. You actually have been. You've been scammed in so many ways. Some of you have dwelt in it for so long. It's not worth it even living. That's why when I never talk to a 50, 60-year-old and get the same thing that I get when I speak to someone who's younger than that. You can usually tell in their voices. The ones who are not religious, you can tell that, yeah, they didn't do that bullshit at all for most of their life. The ones who are religious, it's so true when they say you can't teach an old dog a new trick. It's so true when they say you can't teach an old dog a new trick. How can you be a Christian for 30 years, but you haven't even read half the Old Testament?
Yo.
What's up, bro?
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good to know, bro. Good to know. My goodness. My body. God.
Why are you calling God
So,
when your body is hurting you?
huh?
You just said, my body, God. Like, are you blaming God for making your body hurt, or are you calling on God to help you?
No, it was just an expression. Or
You
just
use
expressing that,
so you just use God casually as an expression.
sometimes
No,
I do.
I understand. I understand. I
Yeah.
don't yet know your position, so maybe it's totally fine for you. So go ahead. Well, what you got for me, bro?
First of all, since I don't know exactly what is the point, let's go. Okay, what is your argument for there is no God?
There is no God.
Okay,
I think
explain.
I think there's no God.
Okay,
Are you saying there is? I was just stating
yeah,
the
I believe
obvious.
so.
I'm just stating the obvious. I'm saying that it's obvious that there is no God. Now, if you think that it's not obvious, well, show us something.
Oh, okay. No, I'm saying, okay, you're saying that there is no God. Fine. I accept that as a statement. Now, what do you say in terms of your explanation? How did you came to that? That's what I want to know.
You know, if I was to explain that to you, there would be a big
Yes.
problem. Do you know why?
Okay. Why?
Because it seems like you don't know what it means when someone says there is no God.
No, no, no. I
No.
am saying
So hold up. When you hear me say there is no God, what do you hear? How does it
that
sound to
you
you?
are
How does it go through your mind? Can you tell me how you process it? I think that might help me.
okay. So basically, you said there is no God.
Yeah, so
Okay,
how hold
that
on,
is the
how do you hear
statement.
that in your head? What do you think when you
No, no,
hear me
no.
say
What do you,
that?
let me just say it right. I understand the statement in there is no God, right? Very practically, you're saying there is no God. Reality is just this, right? Our bodies, our flesh, our brain, and everything that we have in terms of physicality, right? Or am I wrong? In
Is
terms
that what
of
goes is
how,
that what goes through your head when you hear me say there is no God?
yes, there is
Wow. That's a
exam.
lot of things going through your head and it's not even helping you out. Okay, so let
Okay.
me tell you what I mean when I say there's no God,
Yes.
okay? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
What I'm saying is that there's a bunch of people in this world who got up one day from
Mm-hmm.
sleep and started saying there was a God. They have never proven it, they have never demonstrated it. Every demonstration they give us is a bust. Every evidence they give us
Okay.
can be disproven. If that
Okay.
doesn't prove that there's no God, and that God is literally an imaginary character made up by these people who woke up from sleep one day and said there was a God, what else? My statement is a
Mm.
counterclaim. It carries a very powerful aspect to it that requires a lot of pre-knowledge to even address it. I will never get up from sleep to say to you that there is no God, unless you already profoundly have an understanding of what it means that there is one. Now, those who
Okay.
say that there is one have created a problem, which is me. They've never provided proof, and every description they give of your God is consistent with fictional characters. So I'm simply stating the obvious. The only gods we have is the one
Okay.
coming out of the mouth of religious people, and it takes different shapes and forms. Outside of what comes out of their mouth, there's nothing observable, hearable, speakable.
I mean,
Just like all our other fairy tales. So how could there be a God? If there's anything out there, it ain't no God. As for God,
okay.
human beings imagined it. That's what I mean when I say there's no God. So
Okay.
you first have to know
Okay.
what God
Okay.
is, know who says there
No,
is,
no, no.
then
I
wonder
just
why
wanted
someone would
to.
say there is not.
No, no, no. It's not that I'm wondering. Uh, I wanted to understand because I found your live randomly, and I really got curious. Like, what do you have to say and stuff like that. That's why I came here, not because I wanted to like say, oh, there is a God and blah, 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 blah. No, no,
Okay,
no.
good. I
I'm
like
a
that. I
reasonable
like that.
person.
So you're saying that
I'm
you're
a
not in.
reasonable
Are you saying that you're not in opposition to my idea, or you are not yet trying to establish your
I'm
position?
I'm I'm trying to step into your shoes to understand the logic of there is no God,
Right, but I
right?
could not help you stand into my shoes if I cannot observe what shoes you're already standing in? Because chances is
Okay.
we can tell that you can't stand into my shoes because maybe your toes are shaped very funny, and we don't even need to have you try. We can just tell just by looking at your
Yeah.
toes. Be like, yeah, bro, them
Yeah.
toes you got
Yeah.
right there, it can't fit
Maybe.
in my shoes. But let me see your shoes. So that's what I'm saying. What's your position?
Okay. My position is there is a God for
Okay,
sure.
you see, period. The moment you told me
Okay.
that, you fall in the same category as every other guest. You're not just coming out here
Okay.
straight out of curiosity. It's not just plain curiosity. It's because this statement emphatically goes against the core of your own belief, which is that there is a God. Now, if you've already established that there is a God, and now you're trying to address a guy who said there is not, you must also be conscious of who has the burden of proof. You.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm saying that it's not there. So the only proof
Okay.
that you need to tell it's not there is to look for it. If you look for it, you don't find it, you can confirm it's not there.
Okay.
So you who is saying that that it's there,
Okay.
it would always be your responsibility to provide proof. Everybody else can only try to disprove what you say. I can only try to disprove what you say. In the absence of you saying anything and me saying anything, life will continue as if there is no God. So the idea of God is only relevant because you opened your mouth and said that God existed, and then I said in return it doesn't. If we both shut up, the natural state of the world is a non-God relevant world. That's a real thing. So establish your position and then tell us exactly why God is real. And then if I have a problem with anything you say, it will now be my burden to disprove it. And every time I can disprove it, my statement remains true.
Okay. So are you in that sense in a position of sorry, I'm babbling and I'm being a little bit slow, sorry. Right? But I'm just trying to understand everything that you have said to me correctly. So in your worldview, you say that there is no God and that the people that believe in God, right, would be in contradiction to reality, something like that, right? Okay. Now, if there is no God, how can we conduct this experiment? I would say, well, we have to just see our world in terms of what we have right now and what we had before in our history, right? One thing that I would say is the fine-tuning argument is one of the strongest, I believe, for the provenance of existing a God.
It's
know,
actually not.
not
Yes, the
not. Why would
fine-tuning
you say
argument is
that?
perhaps the worst argument for the defense of a God.
Okay.
Because in a system, you know a system is fine-tuned for its most valid function, right? You know, a system is fine-tuned for whatever is most valid that system accomplishes. For example, an airplane is not fine-tuned necessarily to ride around on the airport, though it's not necessarily most fine-tuned just to ride around in the airport. For what most people don't know, airplanes cannot go in reverse. Airplanes can only move
Okay.
forward. The way they're designed, an airplane is fine-tuned to only move forward. Now, is an airplane fine-tuned to move forward? Is that a solid argument for why human beings made airplanes? Human beings fine-tune airplanes so it can only move forward? No. Human beings fine-tune airplanes so it can fly. Right? Now, if the world is fine-tuned, we don't see life being the most abundant thing in the world, in existence. We see non-life. In fact, what we do see happening to life is the world seems to have been fine-tuned so that all life will die. So we can say as a principle that all living things die. Anything that has life dies.
Okay.
That will also be a natural conclusion from the fine-tune. It seems like the world has been fine-tuned that no matter how long something lives, no matter how great it is, so long as it's alive, one day it will die.
Of course, of course.
That now eliminates the possibility that you have an undying God to even fine-tune it.
Well, not really.
And then you also have the problem of questioning who is the fine tuner and how is the fine tuner fine tuning, because everything is not happening all at once. We see a progression, and we see multiple progression. You see, contrary to what religious people like to believe, there is nothing in this world which is a product of a singular cause. There's nothing that we can point that is caused literally by just one thing. So the idea of one thing then causing everything, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's such a jump of the hoop. It can make you permanently dumb forever, no matter how many fancy words or how many fancy ideas you know.
Okay. But okay, wait. So you would say that the Big Bang theory, or like the Big Bang theory. Sorry, wait a minute. I need to do something real quick. I'm sorry. Wait. No. Yeah.
What did you
Okay.
just do? Did you just kill a fly?
No. I needed to close
A mosquito?
my window. No. I need to close my windows.
Or what was that strange sound you were making?
I was stretching myself.
I'm
I'm
like,
sorry.
man. I was like, bro, why does it take that much effort to close a window until you're gasping? I was just checking on your health. Anyways, continue.
Bro, spare me, please, bro. Come on, man. I cannot do anything. That you're roasting me here, bro. But anyways, what did I wanted to say? Oh my goodness. I'm sorry.
We're
I
talking
went
about
in a
fine
tangent.
tuning, bro. Like I said,
Fine tuning.
listen, check
Yes.
this out.
And you were saying that the existence of a timeless God is disproven by fine tuning, or is a problem for a
You would
fine tuning
run.
God.
What I'm saying to you is that no matter what escape you use to escape from acknowledging that there is no God, once you are done using all those excuses to justify the existence of humans, you will still need to validate the existence of your God. And if you bring me some stupid argument to tell me that God has always existed, you're just making yourself a fool.
Why?
Because that's a big assumption. That's a really fat assumption based on no evidence that now shows me directly exactly how your train of thought is. You are just running with whatever comes into your head. You're not giving anything proper analysis, because chances is, even if humans were engineered, it's highly possible. It's actually more possible that we were engineered by, for sure, more than one person, for not necessarily the most benevolent reasons, and that person was not infallible, and that person did not make a perfect product. Chances is there's a degree of hostility between us and such a person, because we don't see any social interaction between us and whoever would have, or whatever would have made us. There's even a high possibility that even if there was someone that possessed the resources and intelligence to make human beings, they might not be thinking about it as we are, and we could literally be in a massive zoo being cultivated as food for some entity that thinks we are a delicacy. That's also possible. It's also possible that someone is out here domesticating and trying to produce a certain type of human for some type of experiment they're conducting somewhere out there. So in terms of levels of intelligence or capability, as far as who can make humans, bro,
yes,
that's why ancient people have multiple gods. The gods, all these gods were different, but yeah, they were all claiming that they could make humans. Maybe the next biggest scientific discovery that we're going to come across is that, yeah, our species was artificially engineered. But we don't just know that through theories. We've artificially engineered a human or a living entity that can think. Right? And that's be the only way we can confirm that human beings were engineered, if we can replicate it. That would be the day we can make a human being in the lab. Evolution is going to get a huge punch in the face. Now, the reason why evolution is going to get a huge punch in the face is because Darwinian evolution will get a huge punch in the face. Darwinian evolution. Now, intentional evolution will now sprout wings. The idea that the evolution of life is from civilization to civilization. So, as far back as it can, species have been making species that have become smart enough to make other species. And no one can even pinpoint how far back it goes. And perhaps the originator of this process is also long dead. And we're just in the process that's continuous. There's also that real possibility. But the fact that you religious people isolated to an almighty supreme God that loves you. I said, my friend, you didn't just jump the hoop into fiction. Now you're even adding emotions. That, oh, if human beings were engineered, it had to be by this almighty, supreme, loving God who made a snake, put it in a garden, and put the first human and the first woman. Think about it, bro. In comparison, it's like the thinking of a child. If I'm really interested in knowing the real truth, I can't just run with any story that sounds good to me. I have to follow the evidence and see what the evidence is pointing towards. The evidence we collect around the world doesn't point to any supernatural beings. It points to very natural things and levels of science that might perhaps transcend ours, but not necessarily supernatural. Nothing that we found in this world implies supernatural. Even the things that we cannot answer. It implies a level of scientific mastery, if possible, if not a natural occurrence. So I don't need to go and read the Bible to know where the world came from. Oh, the Quran.
For sure.
Or listen to a fairy tale.
A man can know God through reason. It's not impossible.
No, you cannot know God through. You cannot know God through reasoning. You can know
I'm not
of.
saying know God
Listen.
like I know you. I'm not saying know God like I know you. I'm
Yeah,
saying
you can
that existence
listen.
of a God
Listen.
through reason.
Listen.
Yeah.
Listen.
I'm good.
God is imaginary, anyways. You can't know God.
Okay.
You can only know of God. So yes, a man can only know of God by reason. You're correct. Outside of what our brain does, you ain't knowing God for shit, because God's not a real person. God's an imaginary character. So using the faculties of your imagination, you can conjure one up. You can make it whatever you want in your head. And that's what human beings do. And that's exactly what human beings do. The Muslim make theirs, the Christian make theirs. That's literally what we are observing. Whether you like it or not, that's what we are observing. Human beings are making their own gods. They do make their own gods. And the most successful ones are the harbingers of the proprietors of the 5 biggest religions in the world today.
5? I'm sorry. 5?
5 biggest religions in the world.
Wait, Christianity, Islam, the other 3 are who?
Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism.
Okay.
Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism.
I forgot about those.
Do you know why you forgot about those? Because your view of God and religion is so shallow. You have so much to learn. Right now, you're only privy to the indoctrination the Europeans gave you. You don't even know Chinese history. The Chinese people even have a history that is longer than what the Europeans have. And they have belief systems and sciences and ideas of the world that you're probably not even exposed to. The Indians do the same thing. Even your traditional African people have the same thing. The idea of God is an idea that is spread across the world. It's a man-made idea, and there's many original versions of it around the world. The idea that there's just one that rules over one, no. That's the product of human beings who wanted to build empires and dominate other people. So when they will come into your nation, they won't just dominate you, your wife, your children, your culture, and your tradition. They will dominate even your religion and your gods. That was the ultimate sign that you've conquered a person in ancient times. I conquer you, I conquer your nation, conquer your wife, your children, your land, and your God. And may you worship my God. Yeah, that's right. So if these modern days gangsters were like in ancient times, they won't say fuck you. No, they won't be cussing you. They'll be like, bow to my God. Of course. They'll be like, bow to my God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like, you complete submission to the God.
It's so ridiculous to me because it's so obvious, bro. It's so obvious to where it no longer becomes a matter of right and wrong, whether you should believe in God or not. It just becomes a matter of if you understand what you're doing. It's a sport of the mind, okay? The imagination is a beautiful thing because it allows us to conjure up all kinds of things, even including things that could never are, never will exist.
But if God existed, would you want to worship him? Would you want to have a relationship with him? Just
when a baby is born, no. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question before I go into yours. When his baby is born,
Mm.
does it want to worship its parents?
Does a baby worship his parents?
When a
Do
baby is
babies do
born,
that?
does it want to worship its parents?
I don't know. I don't know, dog.
Obviously not. The baby doesn't want anything other than food and rest. Now, when a baby is born, does it worship anything? The answer is no. You and I were once babies, and
Okay,
that's how we kept.
wait. Worshipping in terms of like putting themselves in a position, putting the thing that they see as like God, like that.
Worshiping in the sense that you understand worship to be whatever you think worship is. Worshiping.
All right.
Yeah. Do you think babies worship anything when they're born?
I have not yet
Okay,
had,
good.
you
So
know.
when you and I come out of the factory, because you said to me, if God existed, would I worship him? When you and I come out of the factory, we don't come out with any specific inherent need to believe or worship anything, do we? So that the way we are born into this world makes the idea of worshiping a matter of choice. You couldn't do wrong, you couldn't do right. It's always going to be a matter of choice. So even if a God existed, it depends on how I feel in that
Okay.
moment. It depends on what type of person that God is, and it depends on if that person is actually God. And it also depends if that person can meet all the characteristics of what I would consider a God. If that entity falls short of anything that I can imagine in my
Yeah.
head that a God should be capable of, then that being is not worship of worthy of my worship. And you want to know the one
Okay.
thing, the one challenge I give every God in order for them to prove that they are God?
Yeah.
Make me your equal. Any God who does not fear the idea of making me their equal is a real God. But any God who is afraid of making me their equal, oh hell
If
no.
okay.
Make me
that
your
could
equal.
work.
Make it to where
could work.
make it to where you can do anything to me, negative or positive. Make me immune to every one of your actions, and then you will see my true nature. Because if your simple power over me is that you have more technology than me, you think I'm going to worship you as a god? F you. No,
Okay.
I'm going to give you credit for your ingenuity and you being smart. You can make planets, you can even make galaxies. Good for you. But unless you teach me how to
Okay.
do that shit, bruh, I ain't worshiping you. Now, if you want to force me to worship you, shit, there might be a chance that I might worship you just to survive. If I'm in that position, I totally worship
Yeah.
God just so he doesn't kill me. But I won't mean it.
No.
I'll just do it so that he can let me go.
I
I'll probably
mean,
be
but
cussing
if
him out
he's
in my
God,
heart.
but think about this. If he's God and you're worshiping him, let's say that in this scenario, you're worshiping him because of the fact that you fear him, right? And he's God, he would know that you're worshiping him because you just don't want to die. Making you
Exactly. That's why I told him that if he
a
really wants
robot
to find
in
out,
this scenario,
no.
right?
That's why I'll say to him, if he really wants to find out
And
what
even
I
in the
have in
sense
my
of
heart,
you saying that making
no,
you
hold up,
his equal.
hold up, brother.
Oh, did
If
it
he
pause?
really
Am I
wants to find
paused?
out what I have in my heart, he needs to make me his equal. When I'm no longer in a position where I have to love him or to fear him, then he can really know what I really want to do. Because some people want to go to heaven and believe in God because they're afraid of hellfire.
Wait. Can you
In
go
fact,
back?
every single person that believes in God because they don't want to die and they don't want to perish forever. That's the only reason why anyone believes in God, really. In the absence of the idea of death, punishment, and some type of violent reaction from all these gods around the world, if they didn't threaten people with violent reactions, people will have no use for them. Humans would have had no use for the idea of God if life wasn't hard. It is the exploitation of the pains and sufferings that allow someone to sell people that type of false hope. In Christianity, it's even terrible. Christianity teaches you to just give up on the world and look forward to the next. Pretty much.
I don't think so.
That this world is passing away.
No.
That is literally what it's teaching.
No. No. I understand what you're saying, but I think what you are getting at is a Christianity that doesn't go into the world. Jesus doesn't call us into a position of being still in our fate,
First of
a
all,
position
Jesus does not
of
call you. Jesus has never called you. Jesus
no.
will
What
never.
I'm
Oh, no, no, hold on. I want
wait,
us to be no. I want us to be
Okay,
honest in speech without making any false
yes,
assumption at this juncture in the conversation, right? So listen to what I'm
okay,
saying. Jesus has never called you. Jesus will never call you. You read in a
okay,
book about a guy called Jesus. You went to a
okay,
building. A bunch of people told you a bunch of things about that book and that story.
all
And that's
right,
what you're talking about. As for what
okay,
has in fact happened, Jesus never
yes,
literally talked to you. You are hoping that it is Jesus talking to you as you've read. Now, Jesus wasn't even talking to you directly when he spoke in the book. You are inserting
yeah,
yourself into the story as an active participant.
because I am an active participant, because I live in the same world that the dude came into.
No, you don't live in that same world. The world you live in,
I
snakes
don't
don't
live in the
talk.
same world.
Humans. Oh, bro, listen. I can tell you that,
Wait,
bro. The world that you
bro.
live in, snakes don't talk. Humans don't walk on water. Dead people don't rise up after 3 days. You don't go and lay your hand on a dead person and they wake up. No, it's a different world, bro. It's like you and I don't live in the same world as Spider-Man. The world we
Okay.
live in, people don't swing around
No.
buildings with webs coming out of their hands.
I'm saying,
This stuff in that book doesn't happen in our world. That one thing is
wait,
for sure guarantee 100%. I don't care what argument anybody makes for the existence of God. One thing is for a fact true. The things in that
okay,
book doesn't happen in our world. That book is built with its own fictitious occurrences, just like any
okay,
other fictional story. Within Superman, right? There is a Batman. We don't live in a world where there's a Batman in a city called Gotham City, or Metropolis with
okay,
Superman, or New York City with the
uh-huh,
Avengers. And yet, those are
yeah,
entire stories that have entire
yeah,
histories that even use the
yeah,
names of real places, of real people.
okay, okay.
So don't you think that it's strange that you believe that human beings today can make up stories that can appear to be so real, but you don't think that human beings have always had that ability? Nah. If there's one thing human beings are good at doing is telling stories. And if you're careless, a motherfucker can make some shit up and you would just think that shit was so real. That's why we always ask for proof. That's why asking for proof and asking for evidence is a natural part of our
I
day-to-day
mean,
conversation.
of
That's
course,
what
of course, but
that's why the
what I
idea of
was,
believing and not believing comes into place.
okay,
And the
I'm
more
not
important
denying,
something is to you, the less careless you're gonna be with believing. And if you think you're really dealing with
okay,
your soul and your life, bro, simply being a Christian because the promises of Christianity sound good is ridiculous, especially if you haven't examined all the other religion. Because even if there was a God and there
mhm,
is a truth, the truth is not necessarily always the most appealing. Perhaps the Hindus are right, and whoever created human beings did not create us with an idea of heaven and hell. They just put us in a cycle of reincarnation. There's a real possibility that that's true. That what we see in the animals
for
are
sure,
just different versions of our spiritual forms reincarnating, and it's just an ongoing cycle. And because God
it's
is
a
eternal, He's
possibility.
got everlasting time. This is his everlasting game. Just watching the cycle of
Okay,
life, right?
all
Perhaps the
right,
Hindus are right. Perhaps the Buddhist is right. Is that you don't need to have someone
perhaps,
save you externally. You save yourself by knowing yourself and knowing the difference between what you can do, accepting suffering, and then striving on till you can't strive no more. Maybe
of
Buddha is right.
course, okay.
Now, what
I
are the
never said that
possibilities out of all of this?
he's not right about some things, you know. Suffering comes also by desiring things. If I desire a car, I will have to suffer to get the car. I'm not saying that is inherently bad, but again, as I was trying to say in the thing, I was trying to address the thing that you were saying. Correct me if I'm wrong about um, the believer who is called to simply abandon this world, right? In terms of you don't care about this world, you just care about the next world, and yada yada yada. Am I right in what you were saying?
the believer who chooses or who is persuaded to give up on this world in exchange for one where they have absolutely no evidence that it's real, and their only foundation
No,
is faith based on their convictions towards the story. Their faith is based on how they feel towards the story.
no. Okay. Yes. So was I right in what I was saying right now
That's
about what
the
you
nature
said?
of a true Christian. Yeah, a person who be close enough to be called a true Christian will be someone that sees absolutely no value in this life beyond sharing the gospel of Christ and living a holy life until the time that you're called home. You're not worried about building civilization, building a better economy. You're not worried about such things. All those things are
But
passing away. That's all
such
vanity.
things can help people in
Yeah, but
terms
not in those,
of,
not for those who are walking the narrow path. Broad is the way that leads to destruction, and narrow is the path that leads to life.
of course,
Few they be that
of
find it,
course.
right? He said, if you want to follow me, carry your cross and follow me. You know what
Yeah.
your cross is? Your cross is you resisting the world. You are in the world, but you're not of the world. Do not be unequally yoked. Literally.
Mm.
If you are really serious, you can't even work with unbelievers. You can't be yoked. You can't be employed by
Not
an
really.
unbeliever.
Not really. I have to disagree there, because even in the
Yeah,
Old
that's because you're
Testament,
not really a
King
Christian. You're a
Solomon.
pseudo-Christian. You're not really a
No,
true
I am a
Christian.
Christian.
Okay,
It's
then
okay.
there's just aspect of your religion you can't really practice.
No. It's okay for you to think that I'm not. It's
Okay,
okay.
so let me ask you
I'll
a
accept
question.
that.
Let me ask you a question. What is the Great Commission?
Yeah. What? Sorry?
What is the Great Commission?
The Great Commission.
Yeah.
That part I don't know.
Okay, yeah, maybe you just
I
don't know the
won't
word. I
listen.
get it. No problem. What
Yeah.
was the last commandment Jesus gave his disciples before he went up into heaven?
Spread my word. My word.
He said, go
If I'm
ye
correct.
therefore into the four corners of the earth and preach to every what?
Yeah.
Every creature, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says it. You can go and pull up your Bible and read it. In multiple versions, it says go and preach to every creature, right?
What is the last command
Go ye therefore into the world and preach to every creature.
that Jesus gave to his disciples? Before ascending into heavenly realm was the Great Commission. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And it's cut off. It's being cut off. Is in what? And okay, wait. And okay.
Hi, Meta. Which
I
part of
don't
the
know.
Bible says, go ye therefore into the world and preach to every creature?
Good question. The verse you're thinking of seems to be Mark 16 minutes 15 seconds, which says, and he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. However, another similar verse is Matthew 28:19, which says, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. These verses are often referenced together in discussions about spreading the gospel.
So when he said, go ye therefore into the world and preach the gospel to every creature and every nation, who is he talking to?
The disciples.
Is he talking to you?
Am I not a disciple of the Master?
No.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
I am.
No, you're some guy who read the Bible 2,000 years later. That doesn't make you a disciple. Is that how you become a disciple? How many disciples
How
did
do
Jesus
you?
have?
12.
Were they the ones that he was talking to on that day?
I would have to see. Give me a second. Who were the disciples received commandment. Okay, the last commandment. Different occasions, his apostles, the final instructions. But even the 11.
Bro, no matter where you look, I'm pretty sure you're not going to find your name there. So whoever Jesus was talking to, he wasn't talking to
Yeah,
you.
I'm not here to find my name.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
never
I
said
get it.
it.
I know. I'm just reminding you that you wouldn't find your name. My point is that Jesus wasn't talking to
Yeah,
you. He wasn't talking to you.
yeah.
Okay.
This is the
So you
returning
can
of.
self-assign yourself that mission,
Okay.
or you can just let it be that that instruction was just to those people. So let me ask you, do you live by that mission?
Sorry, what?
Do you live by that mission to go out into the world and spread the gospel?
I do it at my best capacity, though I struggle with it.
Why do you
I'm
struggle
gonna
with
be
it? Don't
honest.
you have the Holy Spirit to help you out?
Yes,
You don't have the
but
Holy blah 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 blah.
yeah, I do.
Okay, so with the Holy Spirit, why is it difficult? You got a whole ass third member of the Trinity with you.
I mean,
A whole
I
God
mean,
is inside of you. A whole God. And you got the spiritual one. That one can take any shape or form. Holy Spirit, you got him with you.
of course, but
So why
what
is it a
is
struggle to fulfill the very mission that Jesus told you you're supposed to be doing, to go into the world and preach the gospel? Exactly which gospel are you preaching? Tell me, what's the gospel you're preaching?
that Jesus died for us, for every last one of us,
Oh,
so that we can be
so Jesus
fulfilled
sent you to
to
go
the
into the
Father.
world and go and tell people that he died for them.
I don't think that is a correct, statement
So
of what I just said.
what's the gospel that you are preaching now that you're fulfilling that great commission? You say you live by that mission. So what exactly are you doing? Like, what are you preaching? What is the gospel that you're preaching to people? Since you've done it
I'm
a few
preaching.
times and it's something that you think about clearly because it's a major part of your life as a Christian. And if you're not doing it,
Okay,
bro, I highly suspect you're probably not a Christian. If it's not something you're
okay.
actively thinking, that's something that's an active mission of your life, then you're a part-time Christian at very best. So tell me, what is the gospel you preach?
That's crazy. That's crazy. The gospel that Jesus Christ came to earth, incarnated. Oh, wait, sorry. God incarnated into the world as the Word, Jesus Christ, and suffered in the cross for our benefit so that we can have everlasting life with Him.
Okay, let me help you out a little bit. I want you to pretend
Yeah.
that I am a person who's never heard of that gospel before. And I want you to
Okay.
share that gospel with me as if you're trying to win my soul.
Okay.
So you need to be sincere
All
about
right.
what you're saying.
All right. Am I supposed to start? Right?
Go ahead.
Okay. How are you doing? First of all,
I'm doing.
fantastic, bro. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm
So,
just chilling over here, man, enjoying Donald Trump's oxygen. Life's real good. I ain't tripping. How about you, man? What's
yes.
cooking?
I mean, a bit tired.
All
A
right,
bit tired. The
man.
day
So
is long.
what brings you to my door this early morning? I just heard someone knocking on my door. What you want, man?
I wanted to wait. We are at your door. First of all,
Yeah, you just pull up
where
my
did I
door like a
find
Jehovah
you?
Witness, knocked on my door. Look at you
Oh,
all
nah,
nicely
dog.
dressed.
That's
What's
crazy,
going on?
bro. Nah, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. Chill out. Chill out with the Jehovah's Witness, bro. I'm not in the same category as those guys, bro. Those are heretics.
Are you
For
offended
real, bro.
because I associated you with Jehovah Witnesses? Okay,
Hey, bro.
let
Nah, that's crazy, bro. But anyways, no. I'm not offended. I'm not offended. I get it. They do happen
okay.
to be that
So you
wrong.
can just go to the part where you tell me of the gospel, though.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to know, do you believe in God?
Oh nah, man, I ain't got time for that stuff, man. I got way too many bills to
Oh,
pay. There's too much to do in the world, man. I ain't got time to be thinking about Santa Claus for adults.
For sure, for sure, for sure. Not denying that. Not denying that. And why don't you believe in God?
Because I don't believe in things I cannot see. No, in fact, let me correct it.
Okay.
I don't believe.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Let me correct it.
Yeah. You see what happens.
Let me correct it.
Very nice.
I'm correcting it to help you out. I don't believe in people I cannot see.
Okay. People, but God is not people.
Oh, so God is not a person?
God is not a person.
Ah, of course. Then there's no good reason to believe. No, what's the whole point?
I mean, first of all, that also depends on how you see God, in terms of how you understand.
How many other ways can you see a person?
I mean,
you say it's not a person. It's not a person. So I have no interaction to interact with such a being. I don't have time for that now. I have no important reason to be interacting with some.
Because okay. There is a difference between God, right? Because in Christianity, we have God in terms of one essence, one being in three persons.
Bro, I don't know, bro. I'm not interested. The Muslim guy came here the other day. He said all his stuff about his Allah. I'm not interested. Now you're coming, you're telling me, bro, what are you really here to tell me?
Oh, I wanted to tell you that I wanted to share with you the gospel. Can I share with you that?
What is the gospel?
The gospel.
What does gospel mean? What does gospel mean? I don't know what that is, bro.
Oh yeah, I forgot. That is crazy. I really forgot about what the gospel means. No way. But okay.
Hold up, my brother. You came here to give me something and you have now forgotten?
I really forgot.
Holy shit. You forgot that gospel means good news? And you've been preaching the gospel every day or to the best of your ability? It looks like it's not really to the best of your abilities, brother. It's looking like it's to the least of your abilities. If you don't know what gospel means, you at very least you know what gospel means, my brother. I told you you're a part-time Christian. You might want to go full-time.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe if you go full-time, you can get benefits of collecting tithes and offerings. You know, if you become a full-time Christian, you might even get the opportunity to open your own church. And if you open your own church, you can get free money every Sunday.
I wouldn't open up my church.
Yeah, that's because right now you're a part-time Christian. That's why you're not thinking like that. If you become a full-time Christian who actually tries to practice what's in the Bible and knows basic Bible stuff, then it will be fine. But anyways, let's continue. Now that you know what gospel is, continue, please.
Okay. So, I came to you to share the gospel, basically. And I wanted to know if you wanted to listen to it.
You have some good news for me?
Yeah.
Concerning what about me? What did I do? I didn't do anything. I wasn't expecting good news.
I mean, you didn't do anything, but the Lord has done a very good thing for you, bro.
Hold up. I didn't do anything that I remember for anyone to bring me good news. But you've come to my house today to say the Lord. Who's the Lord? I don't know who the Lord is.
The Lord is Jesus Christ, man.
Who's Jesus Christ, my brother? My brother, who's Jesus Christ? Is he from the village uphill or from the mountain? Where is he from? I'm curious. I don't know who this guy is.
Oh, okay. You have time?
Yeah, tell me, who is Jesus Christ? I'm curious. You said some Lord called Jesus Christ saying to come and give me good news. But I'm curious who this Lord Jesus Christ is.
Jesus Christ is God incarnated into man,
my
friend.
Jesus Christ is God? Which God? Which one? Is it the one from the Mororo people? Or the one from the Fulani people? Or the one from the Hausa people? Or the one from the Muslim? The one from the Christians? Is it the one from the Hindus? Which God? Which one incarnated? Because I know that in the Greeks, their gods sometimes incarnate also. Also the Indian gods, they also incarnate. So this is your God. Which one is it?
Christian God, my friend.
Oh, Christian. Which Christian one?
Yeah.
Is it the Mormon one? Or is it the Catholic one? Is it the Pentecostal one? Is it the Baptist one? Is it the Presbyterian one? Because one thing I know is that they all use the same name, but they all describe this person slightly differently to the point where it's almost different versions of the same person.
Okay.
So which Jesus are you bringing to me today?
The only Jesus that was here.
Which
The
one is the only
historical
one?
Jesus.
Is it the Mormon one is the only one? Is it the Pentecostal one? Is it the Catholic one? Which one?
Okay. First of all, the Mormon, if you're saying, okay, just let's get something straight. So, first, you have the thing with the Mormons. That is not historically correct in terms of they don't have things to prove what they are affirming. So we can discount
What
them.
exactly are they affirming that you have a problem with?
Their theology, even their understanding of the Bible, both
What
in terms
exactly?
of,
What exactly about those things? Give me just one straight point.
yeah.
Because last time I checked, the Mormons are not so different from the Catholics. The Catholics don't understand and interpret the Bible like the
No.
Protestants. The Pentecostals don't interpret the Bible like the Baptists. There's a good reason why you guys have different branches and you all use the same names, but you're all making different claims. So your specific problem
No.
with the
The
Mormons,
Mormons,
unless you're going to be
the
specific,
Mormons was the thing.
you're not telling us anything new.
Yeah. Okay, let me tell you. The Mormons, in terms of their beliefs about God, they believe in the fact that you can become God,
Oh, what's
right?
wrong with that? What's
That
wrong with that?
Jesus Christ,
What's wrong with
Jesus
that?
Christ.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, it's not wrong if it's true.
Okay,
It
so
is wrong if it's not true,
yeah,
and
but
you
how do you
cannot
know? How do you
even
know it's not
so.
true?
Okay, first of all, you have to establish who is the founder of Mormonism
No.
or
Let's just talk about
LDS.
the fact that you said that you don't agree with the fact that they said that human beings can become God. Isn't that what happened to Jesus?
Okay. No, that's not what happened with Jesus, my friend. I think you have a wrong
Jesus was not
understanding.
God when he was born.
Becoming God
Yeah, Jesus became
and
God. He got it as an
being God.
inheritance. He got it as an inheritance. Hebrews chapter 1. Go and read it.
No.
To which of the angels has he ever said, "You are my son, and I have begotten you"? But to the Son he says, "Your throne, O God, is forever." He declares the Son God. He's giving him a name above all other names. So there was a time when he didn't have that name, and then there was a time when he got a name above all other names. If he was already God, that means he already had the name above all other names, but he didn't. So the book says it himself. Now, I know that there's some Christian groups that like to fight. Like I said, you guys like to fight among yourselves. So let's not have a Christian on Christian type violence. My whole point to you is that you cannot necessarily disagree with the Mormon or the Presbyterian. So go ahead, just give me your version of Jesus. Let's not go into those nuances.
Okay. My version of Jesus is who? Is the historical Jesus. That's
There's
who I have.
many historical Jesus. The historical Jesus did not walk on water. Do you know that? From a purely historical perspective, it's not a historical fact that Jesus walked on water. The only historical aspect of Jesus is that people spoke about him. That's the only historical thing about Jesus. And this is people who are writing after they've heard from other people, who have heard from other people, who've heard from other people, that there might have been a guy here who was crucified by the Romans. As far as all his miracles, that falls under the category of Christian propaganda. That's not historical. Even though the history itself is also corrupted because it's developed in a majorly Christian system. But if we're going to separate the history is not first-hand accounts. So the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not written by those people. That's why it's called the gospel according to.
Okay.
According to. So the historical Jesus you believe in is not God. Jesus is not God historically. Jesus is only God by faith, if Christians believe it, through the dogmas in your book. But as history, the best thing that history can do is maybe say that he existed. But history cannot tell you how, even when or where. There's too many disagreements. We say we are 2,000 years from when Jesus was born, right? And yet some people say, no, it's not exactly 2,000 years ago. There's maybe like an 8-year gap before or after. Well, if you get his birth wrong, then you're going to get the time of his death wrong. Then you're going to get the testimonies wrong. Let's not even mention how many times the calendar has changed since then. There's too many problems. So go ahead and just tell me about your version of Jesus and stop trying to make your version of Jesus any more special than other people's versions. I'll allow
I'm
you
not
to
trying
tell
to
me
make
the good
anything
news.
any special.
I will allow you to
The
tell
thing,
me the good news of your version of Jesus. And if I run into another
yeah.
Christian, they will tell me about their versions, because we know that you all have your own versions based on what you like or you don't like, or based on how you feel about what's
Okay.
written in the book.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Anyways, yeah. The fact is that I'm bringing you the good news of the Gospels that recount Jesus Christ and what he came here on earth to do for you, for me, for everybody who is out here.
Is this Jesus Christ related to me?
In what way?
Which tribe did he come from? This Jesus
Human
Christ,
tribe?
you have just knocked on my door and you're giving me this good news and this
I'm
gospel
not
of this Jesus
at your
Christ.
door.
So this Jesus Christ, was he a human being?
Yes.
So why are you presenting him to
He's
me as
fully
a
man.
deity? Why are you presenting him to me as a deity? You know we have deities here in my village as well.
Of course, of course, of course.
So
of
you're
course.
bringing me a foreign deity. Is this deity from your village?
No.
Where did you find this deity at? Were you walking down the street and you found it at the side of the street, or did somebody come and give it to you?
Oh yeah. I found it at the ground, and I pick it up and I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. That's how I found it.
Okay, what did you do after you found it?
I was like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. He's so cute. He's so little. My goodness. I want to stretch him. That's what I did.
You don't even know how that little performance you just did is actually so really reflective of why exactly you believe. And I'm telling you that as long as that's why you believe, bro, we don't really have a problem with you. We know it's because of your feelings and your emotions. It's okay. It's not true in of itself, like literally true. But you just live your life and pretend as if it is the way you see it. There are other people who believe in it, but they don't even see it like you. And they live their life pretending like how they think about it in their head is the reality. That's why you end up with a
Okay.
Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, Baptist, Presbyterian Jesus.
The Mormons started because Joseph would. The Mormons
It is
started
not different. That
apartheid
criticism
war.
is not different from how any of your other Christian sects or how Christianity in of itself started. The way Mormonism
Not really.
started is no more cultic than how Christianity started. Even if Jesus was
Not-
real, he would have started as a cult leader.
Not really.
Bro, if Jesus was real, he would have had to start as a cult leader. In the beginning, there would have to be few people who followed him, who believe his every word, that would do everything
Sorry,
for him.
I have to do something else. Give me a second. Right? Okay.
It's okay, brother. Take a rest, okay? Let me talk to another guest. I don't think the brother was ever going to get to the point where he told me about that gospel. And he didn't notice that at some point he stopped being persuasive. And it seemed like he was struggling to even remember the good news that he was trying to tell me.
Yo, what's up, bro?
What's up, bro?
Yeah, I have a question, bro. How do you think this world came to existence?
I don't know. I wasn't here when this world came into existence.
How do you think, like, if there's no
I
God?
don't know, bro. I've heard many things. I don't know which one is which, but what science is saying is the most observable.
So in that way, you think that it just came from nowhere?
I mean, whether it came from nowhere, it doesn't come from nowhere. That's not really relevant as far as my day-to-day life. So, unless I have the resources to really go and investigate, and I think the best resource would be like a time machine, but I don't have that, so I don't allow that to stress me too much. It's not at the forefront of my mind when I'm thinking,
So,
trying to investigate the world. I understand that some categories of knowledge are not within reach.
and what about human beings? Just do you think there's
What
no
I know
any
for sure about human beings is that human beings are here on earth right now, and I have to get along with all the ones around me if I want peace in my life. So I just need to think, act, and behave in a way that allows me to coexist with the ones around me. I also see people born. I also see people die. I understand that when I compare myself to those people, those things happened to me when I was born, and it's going to happen to me when I die. Understanding that reality, I then look at, okay, in the meantime, what can I do? What can I build upon? How can I make the most out of my time? Then that's how I then live my life. But the idea of where did the world come from, you
So
can talk
so
about it
so you
forever
don't
unless you start doing
so
some
you don't
research.
so you don't so you don't think something, any cause of something like human beings or the world
I
just pop
mean,
up?
how the planet happened here, I don't think that something would have caused it any differently from everything else that we see around us, you know. I don't think that it was necessarily the work of somebody that was intentionally making something. No. The world is too fucked up to be some type of intentional making. The world is very consistent with the power that is bringing about things into existence is not really doing it intentionally, and it's not a single thing that's bringing everything into existence. Things are coming to existence as a product of the behavior and reactions of other things, but multiple things, not just one thing.
So you are telling me like God is imaginary God that's we imagine in our
Yes,
head?
God, the idea of God is imaginary, always will be, always has been. That in of itself is imaginary. There was a time when human beings, when they ask themselves a question they didn't know, they'll just make up an answer for it. They will literally just make up an answer for it. And then once they've make up a bunch of answers, they will try to make those answers connect.
And what do you think those our religion is mad?
Huh?
How do you think those religion is a man-made, like human
Because human
beings
beings
made
are
it?
really good at making up stories. We make up stories all the time, bro. That's why movies sell a lot. If modern entertainment doesn't tell you anything about humans, it should tell you one thing for sure. Humans love to be entertained by possibilities of things that never have and never will be. That's why every ancient stories we make movies of it.
Yeah, I question a
Then we
lot
make
about
movies
this.
of Jesus, Moses, all those people. It's stories. It's entertainment, bro.
Yeah, basically I question a lot about those all those religion in
It
the
doesn't
world,
carry that much
but
weight in the real world unless you make it. And if you make it such a big part of your life, you definitely observe the negative effects, which is your choice anyway. It's good for you.
no, it's not that I believe everything. I have a lot of questions for that things, when it's come to my reality on the world that I am living, observing. I got a lot of questions of those. Though I grew up in religion and read a lot about those religion, especially Muslim. I grew up in Muslim religion, right? I grew up, but there's a time I was like, hold up, I need to read this book and understand, because when I was kid, I read and memorize the whole Quran without knowing what does it mean, just all Arabic for me. But was emotional stable for me. I was like, man, I need to read now and understand and try to observe my world. I was like, no. I can't wake up in the morning and pray and still I go do something for myself. Or like, no. I have to think. And start asking a question about it. But when I started asking a question about my people, they were like, no, man, this guy going mad now. No, you're gonna go hell.
Let me tell you
You're
something. Let
going
me
to
tell you
wait.
something. And that struggle that you're having, bro, believe it or not, everybody's struggling with it. Some people who are still religious, what they do is that they just ignore it. Some people who have the courage, they begin to deconstruct. They begin to break down all those things they learned when they were still in a state of more ignorance, right? Especially when you're younger. Many of us get introduced to religion at a younger age. We accept it without a very scrutinizing level of skepticism. We just absorb it. And then it's later on that we grow that we have a chance to go back and reanalyze it. And if you analyze the God you believe in and you were raised in, you're going to come to the same conclusion you're going to come to if you analyze all the other gods in the world. Human beings invent them, human beings make them up. And it was such a
Yeah,
relevant part of ancient entertainment.
yeah, I think you're right, because when I read all those books and how human being can do something, then I start to think like, no, these people can invent these kind of things and human being can lie. But
Exactly.
when
Muhammad is not
but
an exception and Jesus is not an exception. Muhammad could lie, just like Jesus could
but but,
lie.
but when
And
there's a
anyone who
scripture
chooses to
that
believe that there was a human being in this world who did not lie, especially one that had an agenda, you're just slow, to be
but
honest.
in Quran there's a part that they say men can beat a wife. But when you ask Imam, they say, "Oh, God," or, something blah blah. But you say there's no any other option. God can do that instead of beating you, human being. They're like, no, no, you're being arrogant.
That's
I
the
was like,
problem. That's the problem. If you look at the stories of God and then you look at the world, you begin to notice too many inconsistencies, and you're like, did God not really have a better way to do this? Why did he choose this way? And then you begin to
yeah,
notice the reason why the stories don't add up with reality is not because it involves any real God. It's because it was made by uncivilized human beings who could not think
yeah,
of those complexities in the same way that we think about, because we are born in a generation where we have a far more accumulated database of knowledge. You
yeah,
know,
and
when
it,
when
and
when
when
John the Revelator was writing the book of Revelation in the Bible, or when in the Quran, when they write of all those miracles, they were not thinking that human beings will be living in a generation where they claim to have been to space, where we can make aircrafts that fly in the air, where we can do all the things that they think were supernatural. The people from 2,000 years ago, if they come into any one of our cities, they would think that the things they're seeing are supernatural. If you showed someone from 2,000 years ago a car, he would think that's supernatural. You show him a phone, he would think it's supernatural. I mean, the smartest people, go and get the smartest people, is the ones who wrote the religions, the one that wrote philosophy and history. Show them a modern device or modern technology without telling them where it came from. They would think it's supernatural. That is how their minds were working back then.
you're right, you're right. Even though
They never
sometimes,
gave themselves a
even
fair chance
even
to properly interpret reality. They never gave
It
themselves a
didn't
fair
put you
chance.
a fear not to think beyond. Because if God created a human being with a brain, what brain for? If you think about something and question, you going to hell. Um, and what the bad part that I will start thinking about, like, forget about the world, like everything in this world, just nothing. Focus on heaven. I was like, what the heck is this? Why should I focus on heaven and while I'm living on earth? I need to think something about it. I was like, bro, maybe you don't want me to think.
Thank you for your time, my brother. I appreciate you,
All right,
okay?
man. All right, man. Thanks, man. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
Respect, bro.
You see, I think this is a misconception. At the end of the day, with all these debates we have on TikTok, what matters the most is our characters and our behaviors towards one another in our day-to-day interactions. These conversations have no substance if they don't shed light and clarity towards your perception of your fellow human and your responsibility, not just to yourself, but to the environment around you. The problem with religious people is that they claim to have moral superiority. Being a Christian doesn't make you a better person morally than me, no matter what your book says, no matter what your religion teaches. Christianity does not produce more moral human beings than all the other ways in the world. It doesn't. It doesn't. Especially by volume, by percentage, by quality. You will find great people in Christianity, great humans. You will also find great humans in Islam. You also find great humans as atheists, as traditionalists, as Buddhists. Despite all the substance that religion is supposedly adding to people's lives, it's not adding, there's no specific religion that is adding any more value to the believers of that religion's life than the next religion is. So these are all different schools of thought, ultimately coming down to our character and behavior. So what we're arguing for is, which one is most productive? Which one is more productive? Which one impacts the world more positively? I think science impacts the world far more positively than religion. So much that you can substitute. I think a scientific mindset, a scientific approach to the world will be far more efficient. We approach the world scientifically, and literally 90% of half the shit we think is supernatural, we're going to figure out exactly how natural they are. We'll learn exactly how they work. Because most people's supernatural claims is usually a reflection of their own ignorance of what actually happened. But if we're all researchers, if we're all aspiring to be researchers in our different disciplines, to excel, rather than forming delusions in our heads and running with them and attributing the natural things we see in the world to those delusions. Rather than believing an earthquake was caused by a god, How about you study the earth and study the patterns? Learn what's happening to the earth. What's actually happening when there's an earthquake? The crust of the earth is shaking. There are tremors that originate from single points or multiple points. How do we avoid this? Oh, maybe we cannot. Okay, how do we live in this environment in such a way that if this happens, it causes minimal damage? Perhaps we shouldn't live here. Perhaps we should relocate. That's how you approach the world. Or you could believe that it's a God, kill a goat, kill a cow, spill some blood, and ask for sacrifice, and ask that God to stop the earthquake. Like the people that wrote your books. You can think that way, and the next time the earthquake happens, you suffer the exact same damage. The next time there's a tsunami, the next time there's a flood, you lose the same amount of shit. You rescue nobody because you didn't learn, because you misunderstood what was happening. You thought the earthquake was caused by a god, when in fact it was just a natural disaster without any specific intent. It's because you have associated the idea of God to your feelings. To your feelings. It's something you feel so strongly about. Like it's very emotional to you. That's why you're having a hard time with what I'm saying. What's up, Mr. Ivan? Ivan. Ivan. Sorry, Ivan. You see how Donald Trump said he believes in God, and a bunch of people went and voted for him? They didn't even stop to ask themselves if he believes in the same God as them. What's up, bro?
How you doing?
Doing all right. What you got?
Okay, so everything that you're saying, if you're saying it doesn't matter, it doesn't, do this and do that, then why the things that you say matter?
What exactly did I say didn't matter?
What did you say that? Well, I didn't say that you said it didn't matter. I'm saying you're saying like, how you're talking right now. It's like, how can you say all this when you haven't yourself even experienced what you need to experience in order to believe it?
What I'm saying is that it can't not be experienced, and those who claim to be experiencing something are not just lying to themselves, but they're lying to those who are around them. And that experience you're actually having is not what you're claiming it is. It's an experience that originates from your emotions. And there are many things in this world that can trigger the same emotional reactions in people with the same level of conviction and dedication. That's why all gods inspire humans in the same way. The Muslim is ready to die for his. So if your dedication, your commitment, your faith, how strongly you believe was evidence that your God was real, then guess what? The Muslim's faith and how strongly he believes is also evidence that his God exists. But despite
God
both of those things,
us to die for him, though. He doesn't want us to die for him, so that's a lie on their part.
Say that again.
I said, hey, God does not want you to die for him because he died for you. So why would you die for him if he died for you?
I'm pretty
What
sure
I'm saying, you can live for him, but he doesn't want you to die and be, out of his presence.
So let me ask you a question. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? What does that mean?
Exactly. That
means no. Answer my question. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?
Okay, so I'm going to explain to you what it means. It says, why have all the riches in the world? Why try to be complete when you're still not going to be complete, no matter